Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the March 2nd, 2023 Planning Board meeting here at Town Hall Council Chambers, 9 a.m. Seeing we have a quorum, if we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Thank you. As we deal with in each of our planning board meetings, I'm going to read a conflict of interest statement, and each member of the planning board will have say yes or no to their compliance. Does any member of the planning board have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest with regard to any item on the agenda? And if so, please state so at this time. Sybil?
No.
I do not.
Nope.
Ron?
I do not.
Richard? Okay.
Thank you.
Next item 2 is amending or approving the agenda. Does anybody have any items they want to amend on the existing draft agenda before you? Sybil?
No.
Nope.
Richard? I have 2 items that I'd like to amend the agenda with. The first one would be under number 4, old business. I'd like to move number 1, UDO update continuation, down to number 2 and insert in front of it new number 1 for discussion amongst the planning board to revisit our previous rules regarding the length of our UDO update sessions. And the second item I'd like to amend would be under number 5, new business. And there's nothing under new business right now, but I'd like to add an item that says discussion on the date of our next meeting for the planning board.
Need a motion?
Can I make a motion myself for that?
Can request a motion, but
Okay.
you can't technically make a
I'd-
motion. Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that those 2 items be added to the agenda.
I
I'd like a second. Any discussion on those items or on adding it to the agenda?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? All right, number 3, public comments on agenda items only. Seeing that we do not have anybody in the audience today, we'll move on to old business, and it would be the new item number 1. And I'll give some background as to my thoughts on revisiting our previous rule regarding the length of our UDO update sessions. We had previously voted unanimously that we would limit the UDO update sessions to 2 hours in duration. That then could be increased by, again, a unanimous vote of the members of the planning board present at that meeting to extend it for a time-specific extension period. I'd like to discuss with planning board members on changing that 2-hour limitation to 3 hours. And I say that because that would allow us on the planning board to block out from 9 a.m. until noontime for our meetings, because we all have obviously other lives, and to be able to plan on doctor's appointments and other meetings, and so that we could eliminate as best as possible any scheduling conflicts. And the reason I'm very interested in increasing the duration to 3 hours from 2 hours is that as of right now, I calculate that we are probably at least 1, if not 2, full meetings behind the schedule that we adopted and the town staff adopted back in January of 2022 for the progress on our UDO review and revisions. And seeing that we are behind schedule, I'd like to ensure that we have an opportunity to make that time up, get back on schedule. This is an election year, and I know that's not necessarily interesting to the planning board, but it's an election year for town council. And so for us to stay on schedule and get our portion of the UDO update completed prior to any distractions that might come before town council for the election process, that I think our meetings need to be extended.
Does as it stands right now, an on-schedule delivery would occur when?
By the agreed to schedule, it would be August of 2023 when we would be looking at a final draft that would include really both series of meetings that we have had with the Council of Governments and with town staff.
Well, reviewing the original plan, it's final draft UDO with planning board revisions is July. It's the last item for July 2023.
That's when we would get it.
Right. And the final draft UDO planning board review and recommendation is August 2023. So yes. So yes, I would say the way the schedule is, we should be sending it to at least the joint council thing by August.
Yes, that's what I agree with that. So in other words, it gives us a month to take the final product that's the product of our discussions over the last year and a half, and then be prepared to sit down with town council and have a joint collaboration on that.
I mean, I'm certainly open to the 3-hour line. I think I was the one that kind of.
You did. You set the two, which was a good move.
Yeah, I'm certainly open to it. I guess.
Well, and also I guess as just a note here, Article 3 zoning, that whole section was supposed to be done in February 2023. So he's going to hand us Article 4 today, which we haven't started, and so we should have already started that.
Yeah.
So we are behind.
Yeah. No, I certainly. So I guess the other question that I have, and this may be a little off topic, one of my skill sets, is in the town council meeting, some of them that I've observed or watched, I think they're very concerned about getting this whole thing in one great big lump. And it's not something that we need to figure out today, but is it possible? Is it tenable?
Richard, can you hold that thought to the end of the meeting? Because
Okay.
I think that's a very good thought that we need to run by staff and the Council of Governments. What we're dealing with right now is
Okay.
do we want to have a vote on extending the meetings to 3 hours before we would need another vote
Okay.
to extend it beyond that?
Fantastic. And I think that's been approved.
Okay.
All right.
No,
I'm only able to be here until 11:30 today. On the 21st, I can hope to
right.
be
We're
here
talking about going forward.
for
After today.
3 hours.
Right.
But I also point out that folks, you all also need to understand the tasks that we have before you. We are not here to nitpick every minor detail. That's, we've spent at times 45 minutes talking about things that are frankly irrelevant in our meetings. And I don't mean to be harsh here, but we would be, some of this is because we're getting bogged down on things that are
Well,
Well,
right.
relevancy is determined after the discussion.
Okay, but I'm just
with all
telling
due
you.
respect, that's our job. It's
I,
our job.
May
to
I
defend relevancy.
continue? Because
Please, you have the floor.
I was hired to do a task before you, and I've already had discussions, and I know where this is going to end up, but I was not hired to come make the town an HOA. Okay? Right?
Okay.
So, and I will be here to help you all, but I can only help you so far.
Wes, I think you've made that point several times, and I, for one, I know, and I think the board has respected that. When you've said items like, do you really want to go down that rabbit
Yeah.
hole, a hole that would not hold up in court, we, I think, have always backed off.
Okay.
And we've not, I don't think, forced something into the paperwork that you said, hey, you guys are really gonna chase your tail on this.
Got it.
Ron, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, that's
You
fine.
want to finish your
Well,
thought?
it's just, obviously he's an expert in this area, in this area, because he's done it, God knows how many times, he could probably tell us. But we're not. This is the first time we're doing that. So we have to be comfortable with the relevancy here when we're doing it. He knows the relevancy because he's done it 100 times. We don't. So for him, what's obvious ain't obvious to me. I'll just speak for me until we discuss it, study it, he gives his comments, and then we can move on.
Well, and I
Yes,
think
of
we've
course,
done that.
whenever you have 5 people, you get bogged down on some questions and discussion for a few extra minutes, but I ain't gonna vote on some I'm not comfortable voting on.
Can I call for a vote on the 3-hour?
We could just dispose
change?
of that and move on.
Yeah, I thought okay, yes.
Do we have to
for a
vote on that?
Yes, do we have? I'd like to hear a motion, please.
I move that we extend the UDO meetings effective our next meeting to a minimum of 3 hours. Do we want
To a maximum of 3 hours.
I'm sorry, maximum of 3 hours, right? Thank you.
Unless,
Unless we agree unanimously to extend for a period beyond that.
okay. And I'll second that. Any more discussion? Call for a vote. Sybil? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? All right, thank you all. And Wes, thank you for your comments.
Sure. And let me I just want to make sure that we're all clear on the schedule. The way the schedule is actually laid out is that's when the deliverable is supposed to be given to you. So I don't feel as though that you're so far. I don't think that you're actually 2 months behind.
I didn't say 2 months, I
Okay.
mean 2 meetings.
Okay, got it. So, for example, if in March we can get through subdivision, where in any case, okay, we'll start. Let's get going. Yeah.
My point is that we are behind.
Yep.
I would like to try and make that up. And I would also add as a caveat, just for a future conversation, that we right now really have 1 meeting a month for the UDO and 1 meeting a month for other planning board business. And I'd like to be very specific that I feel that that second meeting, or the meeting that is planning board for applications that come in, that we need to continue that meeting on with the UDO work so that we stay on, we gain back and then stay on schedule.
I thought there was some issue with a UDO meeting requiring a certain amount of notification to the public.
For special meetings, but we have 2 meetings a month, so neither of them are special meetings.
Okay, fine.
So we don't have to do it is on our town calendar at the beginning of the year for the whole year. So
Okay.
that's the public notice. All right. I had that this is our 8th meeting in the second phase of our work, and I have us as picking up at this meeting on the new Article 3.23 pedestrian facilities, which I casually refer to as sidewalks.
Oh boy.
Sybil, do you have anything specific to that 3.23 that you might want to highlight for the board?
No.
Richard, anything on
Well,
anything on sidewalks?
you know,
Excuse the technical interruption.
That's a new one on me.
really.
Richard, comments on 3.23 pedestrian facilities, and noting that this is all a brand new section that's been added into our UDO,
Right.
where it was not dealt with previously. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Richard.
And I think it's certainly stressed clearly in the land use plan is that, we're trying to improve the walkability of this area.
Do you think this does that, the new wording?
I'm pretty sure. It's just my concern is, and I've expressed this to Chad, we have so many sidewalks to nowhere that represent, frankly, pedestrian danger, and don't meet the land use. This seems to me to make a significant improvement. It's just, what powers do we have to go back and try and correct those? Chad and I had a discussion. Clearly there's one. If you walk out of the sidewalk at the sanctuary and want to make a right down 904 to go have lunch at the wonderful new Mexican restaurant, there's no sidewalk, nor is there ever going to be. And how we address that,
Well, it's difficult
concern.
because that was approved in the preliminary plan for that subdivision for
And
the
it probably
sanctuary.
shouldn't have.
That is a town project separate from this. We're looking at how we can
Yeah.
create sidewalks related to development. That'll be a long range capital improvement project for the town. However it gets funded, grant funded, whatever general funds that'll have to be addressed.
No, I think this is a significant improvement, and hopefully will stem the growth of what I call sidewalks to nowhere. So yes,
Ron,
I'm
anything
pleased.
on it?
Overall, I'm fine with the section. The only item, a question and wish to change on 3.23 paragraph B, the second line. In all new major subdivisions, multifamily develops or 10 units or more. I'm kind of questioning the 10 because in my reading of the whole section, everything else was delineated at 5, like
True.
buffering and stuff. Was this? I don't remember any purposeful change that sidewalks should be 10 and everything else. Excuse me, sidewalks 10 and everything else 5. Should we have 5? Be
That's
the break point for everything.
Does that come in from the municipal code?
The 10 was a number of units that we talked about as part of the audit on triggering someone to have to put a sidewalk. That, you know, if someone's only putting up 5 units, that perhaps is you know, maybe a heavy lift, or you know, that 10 units seem to be an acceptable trigger to require that level of further investment.
That came from us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I didn't recall that,
Yeah.
but it's,
I didn't recall it either. but-
My concern is that if you have a 5-unit development that doesn't have to build a sidewalk between units that do, now you've got this situation again where you have sidewalks to nowhere. So is there a way to modify that? That would be the responsibility of anyone to, if the code states that if you were in a standalone place with 5 units, no sidewalk. But
would that happen?
That's you pretty much need to just say, if regardless of if there's a connection there. I mean, the theory here is that development tries to put some investment into the sidewalk, but really it's the responsibility of the town to
Right.
ultimately fund
Doesn't
it.
C deal with it where it says sidewalks shall be installed within the right of way and connect to adjacent facilities?
Where applicable, but only if they're
Right.
only if it's a 10 unit, only if it's a major subdivision, only if it's a non-residential new construction.
And I just see that as a hole. And I drive around, and those holes are everywhere.
Sure.
Yeah, but those holes are going to be filled in at some point in time, for the most part, particularly if you're talking about
Well, but anyway,
the road
I
right
guess
out here.
Do we want to stick to be a separate delineation on just sidewalks at 10 units? Well, I guess someone could tell me I'm wrong, but everything else, like in this section, seems to have 5 as the break point. That's the only question here.
Yeah, I'd be more
And if
comfortable.
we all agreed on 10 before, fine. I just noticed that
It can
wasn't
go down to 5.
consistency.
5 is fine. Yeah, it's a potentially it is a bigger expenditure than, for example, buffering your lot and some of these other additional standards. You know, putting a sidewalk in can be a costly undertaking.
You know, I mean, we just had this conversation a few minutes ago. We have already been through this once, this group, and this is what we came up with, but now we're questioning it again.
Well, in fairness to what Ron said, I didn't remember the 10. Now, we talked about numerical qualifications in a number of things. I just didn't have it. And because this is a new section, I don't have a set of documents to go back to that has margin notes regarding sidewalks. So that's my dilemma. But
And my concern, frankly, comes from the fact that, you know, I walk around these areas, and I mean, I think you'd agree, you know, people being forced to walk out on 904 absent a sidewalk, somebody's going to get hurt. And there are other areas, and I just want to make sure that what we approve here does the most to close the gaps between this, as again I speak of, and to me it's a crucial issue. If there's a way to do it, now's the time to do it. If there isn't a way to do it, okay, that's fine.
one of the, if we can hold that point just for a second, because this builds on it.
Mhm.
If you go down to D is in David in this same 3.23. It says, in all cases, sidewalks shall extend to the property line. To be clear, don't we really mean along the front side to the property line?
No, this is saying that basically, I mean, it says that it needs to be in the right of way, but this is to ensure that there's not a gap in between the adjacent properties, so
Yes.
that you can create a proper
So you go to your property
connection.
line.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who's the one in G, the last item here, who interprets all of this? Is it the UDO administrator?
Yes.
Does it need to say that?
No.
Okay, so that's
it's under the
implied.
purview. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Because there obviously needs to be somebody that monitors this. And if it's the UDO administrator, that's fine with me.
Sure.
It doesn't need to be the planning board. It's
Right.
True.
It would be if there's a plan that comes before you that has to have sidewalks, then you could review it to make sure that you also agreed on the interpretation that it was in accord with this
All right,
requirement.
Ron, to be able to finish up with this Article 3.23.
I guess my preference is just 5, but that's
Okay, well,
eventually
let's see, how would you feel? I mean, 5 units can be substantial. If it's a subdivision and there's 5 houses in a row,
It's a
that
significant.
can be, a good length. But
Well,
what
let
do
me
you
ask
think?
you.
Subdivisions, we determined that to be only applicable, I believe, at a 20 lot division.
Yeah.
And so that's a different thing than a multifamily.
Right.
And 50 lots on both, and we'll get to subdivision. You get subdivision today. At 50 lots for putting sidewalks on both sides of the street. 20 lots on one side of the street. Yes.
Chad?
That answered my subdivision question because I don't think it's fair for somebody who wants to put in a minor subdivision. I think this needs to run with the major and minor site division.
Well, and we haven't gotten to subdivision yet.
Yeah.
We're just talking about sort of site plan type applicability.
Yeah. So
Like the question is 10 units or 5 units?
I'm good with 10.
Would you be even better with 5 then?
I don't think I have an opinion either way.
Yeah, I mean, the question is,
Is
it's
it
shifting the
enforceable? You're the one that has to enforce this, so it's.
Well, it's enforceable.
Well,
The
if it
question
comes-
is
if it
striking
comes-
the balance on, what level of heartburn is it for the property owner
Mhm.
at a 5 unit versus a 10 unit?
And that's where I'm
And-
going with it. Yeah, I mean, you have somebody putting in 5 units that might be on a small scale type thing, and then all of a sudden they have to, it would kill a project to put, not budgeting for a sidewalk, then all of a sudden it kills the whole project because they can't afford it.
Well, is there a way to
You
limit
can
that?
make the argument, though, that if it's a 10-unit building, the sidewalk's going to be twice as long. So
And then
Yeah.
and then the cost shifts to the town to put it in if we think it's needed,
Which isn't going to happen.
right? So
you could convince me on 5 units.
Yeah, I'm convinced on 5 units.
Okay.
Right? So
Wait.
No,
you say 10 is, we should stay.
no, yes, yes. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't back.
You have that,
I say no.
3 of us said yes on changing it to 5. 1 said
Okay.
no.
Because the other thing too, I mean, this is going to come to the planning board to be approved. And if we look at it and see,
Yeah, but
hey,
if you don't have a rule, you can't
Yeah.
make them do it.
you
That's-
can't make them do
right,
it.
right,
That's the rule.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, yes. So
All right, can we move on to
Sure.
3.24 landscaping buffers? Sybil went first the first time. Ron, do you feel like going first on this one?
Overall, I'm okay with it. And the only thing I was looking at, well, on page 3-84, the first table, the canopy trees, it seems like, and I'm going back to some of our earlier discussions,
Get me on that page now.
3.84,
Got
page
it,
3.84,
got it.
table 3.5.
Got it.
I understand why we have longleaf pine on there because it was it's I think the state tree or something. But I thought we didn't want loblolly pines as allowable canopy trees before.
We talked. I think you're talking about 2 different things. We're talking about trees that we wanted to consider protecting versus
Well, these
This-
are the ones we allow to be put in as canopy trees. And I thought
to
we
be
said-
planted.
And generally pines we didn't want. And I can see why we probably have the longleaf pine there since I believe it is the state tree, but it seems like when we had discussion on allowable trees that pines were not it.
That was not
And
part of
loblollies.
that was not part of the discussion.
It wasn't?
So if you want to change it now, that's fine. This is the selection of tree species. What we talked about before was regulation of trees. That's a different thing.
Yeah, that comes up later.
You've separated that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but if you want to strike loblolly, that's fine. Let's do it. Move on.
I'm not a horticulturist. I can't. I don't
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
an
no, I think
opinion.
it's a good idea.
And then my only thing I think on this is this in the same section is page 387 in the same section, right? No, right?
You
No,
have that.
or does it end? Does it end on? Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, on E2 on page 387, it says 1 canopy tree per every 50 linear feet. And I guess probably someone's going to tell me we changed. It's presently 45 feet. And 1 understory tree every 20 feet, and it's presently 25 feet. So I guess probably someone's going to tell me as we discussed that, but maybe I wasn't here today.
Those
Yeah,
are
we changed that from
those. Well, those are two different regulations. What you're talking about is the street trees that would be put in subdivisions. These are street yards that would be put in adjacent to a site plan. Someone would be, for example, build a building along the corridor here. But it can be 45. I know 45 is in there in the street tree one. I didn't change it. 50 is a cleaner number. It's easier to regulate,
Good.
as is 20.
I
But
kind of remember that came up in
Yeah.
a review, and we forced somebody to change it from 50 to 45. Forget whose that was. That maybe
It was. Yes, it was.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was
That's
before
what-
my time, but I sat in
No,
the
no.
audience and I remember.
No, it was
and,
recently.
and that's still in there, and that's for subdivisions.
Mhm.
We're talking about something that's different here. We're talking about if someone builds a commercial building essentially along the corridor, there's a yard
Right out
that
here.
that's correct
Mhm.
that they're
guess it-
required to plant. But it can be 45 and 25. It's up to you all. That this is a
It's
more
45 and 25 is what we have on the other for subdivision.
for subdivisions. That's right.
So,
50 and 20 is
And when we get to that, what do you
I left it the same because I didn't have justification to modify it.
okay?
This is a common spacing requirement, so that's why it's in here.
I think for communication purposes, keeping it a simple number in both categories would probably be easier on our public and on our
50 and 20.
developers. And does anybody have heartburn with changing it in both sections or having it in both sections 50
It's
feet
50 and
as
20.
opposed to 45 feet?
I would seeing the way the boundary trees line up now. I'm actually more comfortable with them being tighter. But again,
Now, these are not trees that are along the highway or along the
I
street.
know, I know.
It's-
So, but I think in the
Yep.
interest of I'm not going to quibble over 5 feet, I do have one question. Is this a regulation? So we've now approved conditional rezoning. Now, is this something that we can moderate in a conditional rezoning application?
Yes, I mean, unless the applicant requests to be exempt from this, then this would be applicable. And the alternative, this board could request that we want your tree spacing to be 1 per 30
Yes.
as a condition.
And that would depend upon the site-specific conditions.
Yes.
But this is just a guideline for that, for conditions that are acceptable everywhere.
Well, I didn't want
But
to
in
wake up
conditional
one day-
zoning, we have the right, based upon that site-specific conditions, to make those changes.
Correct.
Or to negotiate those changes with the
Beautiful.
developer.
Yeah, I just didn't want this to rear its ugly head as right.
Because the canopy tree is supposed to have what type of top? A crown?
It's a height, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's in here somewhere that the crown height is.
The spread, depending on the
It's
tree
20 feet, right?
species, well, it would be minimum 20 feet, but typically 30 to 50 to 60 feet.
And
A
does
crown
this,
spread of 12 feet for understory trees.
Yeah, and then the other one,
And 20 feet for,
that's the minimum, but it could be higher.
Correct.
And
Yes,
you're
minimums.
saying it's more height spread, yeah, here, it's in the table, so you can see some that are obviously spread more. So I guess, well, I guess let's make it the same. It depends on what number, right? Yeah. First of all, I think we agree to make it the same, right?
I think
The,
so.
the feet should be the same for,
I think 50 is easier to
just
manipulate.
just make everything to 50 and 20, or 50 and 20,
50 and
20.
20,
Okay.
which
So-
is what
so
we
when
have
it comes
here.
up in subdivision, just make it the same.
Is that
All right.
okay?
You'll
Sounds
get
good.
subdivision, and I'll go ahead and make a note.
I have
Today.
one off the mark question. Does this at all deal with the flowering pear trees that are a blight?
No, I think it's off the list, right?
You're talking about the Bradford pear?
Bradford pears, we
Yeah.
talked, it shouldn't be.
I
on-
didn't see
I
it
didn't
on
see it
here.
on the list, so it should be
Okay,
off.
good. I didn't either. I just wanted to make sure.
Unfortunately, this
I mean,
is a
it-
big section, huh?
I mean, and this is where I appreciate this. As much as I love doing algebra, I'd rather deal with increments of 50 and 20 instead of 45. And,
Yeah.
We've agreed.
yeah.
We've
Yeah,
agreed-
so we're gonna make them both.
we
the
got
same,
your back, Chad.
50 and 20. This is a big section, I guess. So it ends on the two more things, and then we're gonna that I would have on this section.
I have something that goes back a little bit if we can.
Well, but I don't know if we're gonna do it by section. 325 doesn't start until 91.
I'd like to look at the same
Okay.
section we're in right now of 3.24.
Yeah.
I'd like to look
It keeps going. It's a long section.
at C4. We talk about ground cover is mandatory. I think particularly with situations that we've already experienced in the town, that number 4 needs to continue on and say the use of pine straw is discouraged due to combustibility. And I know that we cannot regulate the use of pine straw on private property, but I think to have it in the UDO shows responsible guidance. That's on page 3.83 at the top.
Yep.
4 ground cover is mandatory.
Hmm.
And continue on after the word landscape materials and say a new sentence, the use of pine straw is discouraged due to combustibility.
Or you can just make a line B if you want.
Or I'd like to see it inserted in there somehow, whatever makes sense. That whole thing didn't make sense because you just have an A, but you don't have a B. So the outlined gods would discourage the way that's outlined. So Ron's right. Having a B there would be good. Or making it A.
The use of pine straw is discouraged,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that'll go somewhere in there. This is another point that I'm just not even going to get into it. Let's keep moving on.
Okay, so pine straw's out.
Well,
It's discouraged. We can't
discourage is
regulate
not
it and ban
technically
it.
out.
So it is a irrelevant statement,
Yeah.
but we'll put it in there. Let's keep going.
Well, I guess did he say what he said was true? We can't say it. We can't say no pine straw.
I just said discouraged.
Yeah,
That's
it's
all.
fine.
I think it's our
Okay.
So
responsibility.
what he's
fine.
saying
Let's
is,
go.
But this is a book of rules
Right.
and regulations.
So it's not a
and
rule.
Let's keep going.
discouragement is not
not a
a
rule.
rule or a regulation.
All right. I'm up to F, parking facility landscaping.
Well, does Richard or Sybil have anything
Well, I'm just
before F?
saying that to see if they
No, we're good.
have anything coming through to it.
No.
Sybil, anything on parking facility landscaping, which is F on page 3-87?
No?
And this deals with the issue that we discussed about on the barrier island.
What's that?
No.
The
This is
20 allowable feet, 2 breakthroughs as long as they're 15 feet apart, 18 feet apart. Does this deal with that, or is that in
no.
another
This is
section?
landscaping in
Oh,
the park-
landscape. Okay,
in the
never mind.
parking
Go
lot.
ahead.
This isn't
Forget it.
structural design of a parking lot.
Got it. All right.
No, so this refers to if you have a parking lot, how do you landscape
Got it.
in and around it?
All right, Richard, we have a new section G, if I can boldly move on to that, on buffer yards. Did you have any comments? Part of that is brand new that Wes has added, the first 3 points.
And I'm just going to make a comment from a staff point of view. This is easily and welcomed when it comes to enforcement. So
Because buffers were sort of out there.
this is more clean cut,
Okay.
and it gives the developer, boom, you've got to do this.
Mhm.
Where it makes staff go, boom, it's there. If it's not there, then you got to fix it.
I also like particularly the point that says all regulated and heritage trees located within the required buffers shall be retained and protected. So,
Yeah.
because heritage trees in a buffer zone, I think, are particularly important for the adjacent property owners.
Chad, a question?
Sure.
That first part of F1A, that 8%,
Oh, F.
those are the little islands and stuff in the parking lot. Is that normal amount? It seemed low, but is that like
gonna-
this parking lot here out here? All those I think refers to the little islands and peninsulas and stuff that are in there. So is
I'm
that
gonna-
8% about the normal rate?
I'm going to defer to Wes on that one. Is that normal?
It's a standard
Yeah,
percentage.
so that's
Yep.
like normal.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that's really an aesthetic as well as an environmental
Correct.
concept. So you just don't pave over
Paradise.
paved paradise.
Put up a parking lot.
Okay, John Mitchell.
Yep.
All right, so Richard, nothing on buffer yards that
Nope,
hasn't been
good.
dealt with. It said buffer yards range on number 7G. It says buffer yards range in width from 5 to 15 foot. Does that mean you would not have a buffer less than 5 feet?
Yes.
I just was curious as to why that was there.
Well, if we're going to, the required buffer yard widths are specified in the table there below,
Right, right.
and they range. You're not required to put a buffer, or
And that's where the zeros are.
correct.
Okay. All right. All right, Ron, you're a landscaping guru. Anything else in buffer yards that
No,
that strikes your fancy?
no. My next section's got a lot of pink on it. Pink's bad.
I had a question, but it probably has already been answered. We have a never mind. I've answered my question by reading my notes.
I have some
Go ahead.
revisions I would like to discuss on section 8, screening of dumpsters.
Okay, everybody okay? Moving on to H.
Yep.
I am.
Couple of things, I guess. Some of the wording well, I gotta get to the tough ones first. I don't think screening consisting of natural vegetation should be allowed. I think the screening should be not natural. So all the other types, fences, walls, berms, and I think it should be a minimum height of 6 feet. Because my concern is you put a couple bushes around.
Lord.
Everybody up.
Oh, they're testing.
Somebody's cooking in the kitchen.
They're testing.
Oh, he's got a ladder there. Okay. Yes.
On
All right, we were rudely interrupted and Ron had the floor.
right. So my preference is natural
You have to
vegetation.
go back to where you are.
I'm on section H or paragraph H on page 3-89.
Gotcha.
Okay, on the screening of dumpsters. So my preference is natural because you could plant some bushes around there and the bushes get finally wiped out or dead or whatever, and then there's no screening. When I would prefer a permanent screening with a minimum height of 6 feet and probably, I don't know about the opacity, but 80% or so I think is what those solid like white fences are. And then I'm just wondering on the wording on the top there, it says located in multifamily residential uses with 5 or more units, comma. We've X'd out some non-residential uses shall be screened from view of adjoining residents, but the way, comma, residentially zoned line, it seemed to me when I read that is,
It says
If-
or.
does that, if you're adjacent to another non-residential lot, are you excluded from that list the way it was written? It's clear that if you're adjacent to a residential lot, you must be screened.
Well,
But the way it's written, or is it written that all?
multifamily of 5 or more units or any non-residential use, and if you're adjacent to a residence or residentially zoned lot, or you're in view of a street right of way, then you've got to be
So any
screened.
any non-residential use,
Correct.
because it's or
But,
comma.
but
Okay,
if
the
if
red
you're-
kind of threw me off. Okay, just want to make sure we didn't have a class just missed in the wording.
Ron, with your thing about natural bushes not being allowed, I think I'm comfortable with allowing them because first of all, I like them. But it also, if they were to die, it says you have to achieve 75% opacity.
Mhm.
So if something dies and you can and it's not acting as a screening device, I think the town has the ability to come back in. Just like if they put a fence in and the fence rots and falls down, they'll make them go back and put the fence up.
correct.
So I think we have to, through code enforcement, maintain it. But I sure hate to eliminate the use of natural vegetation wherever we can.
Well, you can vegetate in front of your fence too. I
Yeah, but then you have to put two things up. So, is your objection because the bush will die, or it doesn't grow, or it does, or something
any
happens?
of all happens, and then you just have a bunch of skinny, scrawny little bushes around your dumpster and say that meets the code.
Well,
And
can you enforce 75%?
I mean, what does that mean? I mean, 75%. I mean, a bush isn't probably 75%.
Well, it means you can't see. You can only see 25% through it.
I just think you got a garbage area and close the damn thing so it can't be seen. So, move on. We can. Everybody else can put their 2 cents in. So.
Well, it's before we move on. I'm comfortable with the way it is, but it's
Yeah, I see Ron's point, but I'm comfortable with the way it is too.
civil.
I am too.
Okay.
Any more on dumpster?
Nope.
The under I, we talk about residential landscaping requirements. We talk about the compliance of 4 or fewer units. And we say only new construction development shall apply. Is it implied that if there's more than 50% alteration to an existing, that this would then apply?
My understanding is that this is historic. The intent of this is only to be subject to new construction, period, and that redevelopment would not be subject to this. So if
Okay,
you're
is that-
so if
Do
you're
you think that's
renovating,
wise? Do you think that's in the town's best interest?
I think that new construction makes sense, and that you put up the landscape. Look, you guys all own your own properties. You want to go reno them. I don't think that you want to also then all of a sudden be subject to another could be $20,000 expense that you're not anticipating.
But my point is, if you're doing 50% or more renovation to your property,
Yep.
that you're spending a lot of money anyway, and to put up a fence is appropriate.
It's up to you guys. I think the intent of this is new construction. It's never been redevelopment. Do you want to get into?
This works. This absolutely works. I see where the chairman's coming from. Again, it's up to the board. This would qualify for, I mean, if you tear down your home, like we probably will start seeing at some point on the island, you completely demo your home and rebuild back, this will trigger that. So this is not, you don't get exempt from that if that's where you're going. If somebody
Yeah,
wants to add it,
I see your point.
and it's like if somebody adds an addition of 1,200 square feet or 400 square feet, are we really going to, like kind of what Wes said, are we going to put them through the pacer on this?
And I see your point. The most logical place for that to be triggered would be the island, because of the high property values, the land values.
And
It's
the one
Well-
thing
well,
you're probably
no,
going to see
Yeah, I mean,
again
off
is
the island too, especially if
Yes.
you have your structure's not worth that much money, and all of a sudden you're. But
yes.
all right. I can live with the way it is without adding that. So
Question for Chad, maybe?
Yes, sir.
On that subparagraph D on page 390, at the very end there, privacy fences has no material point value, but may be used to screen air conditioning units or heat pumps.
That's correct.
What about above ground propane tanks? Does that fall in that same category? We allow it, or we should encourage it, I guess.
Yeah, it's allowed. It just has to meet setbacks. Are you saying that we have to? Are you
Well,
required-
because we're saying prime has no
this
material.
is talking about point values.
Right, it has no point value, but we're saying it may be used, so you don't need to, you can put your privacy fence around your
yeah, you
heat
can.
pumps, but if you have a propane tank, it's inferred there that you can also put the privacy fence around that without
Yeah.
any other
You would
Yes.
typically
permitting.
allow that.
It's not a fence, but because it doesn't say anything about the above ground. Should we add the above ground propane tanks in there? Should be in there, or it's inferred because of the air conditioning units, or?
Yeah, I mean, we're just talking about plant point values.
Well, there's other. I don't know that we can include everything. I mean, it could be a satellite dish.
Well,
it could be.
I guess it's here. Then why was it here?
I don't know why it's.
Is it
even
here
there.
because you don't? I kind of
I
view it as
think it's
because you
just-
don't need a permit to put that up, that privacy fence.
I think the only thing it's saying is that you can't. There's no point value. So if you put up a fence, you're not getting any kind of plant point value for your CO.
But there's no place where you get point values for fences.
Yeah,
anyway.
it's not at all.
Correct.
But I think it's the may be used part, the way I read it. In other words, if I want to put up a fence, I got to come for a permit. But if I want to just put a fence around my air conditioning unit, I don't need one.
No.
No?
I don't.
You would potentially need one, depending. Yeah. 'Cause
But they're all. But then I don't know. Maybe this should be struck. I guess.
I'm just kind of figuring out.
Why is this in here?
I believe it's probably in here because someone's tried to use it as a point value before, and it's clarifying that you can't use it as a point value.
I kind of read it. Yeah, I kind of read it. I knew everybody knew because it's not on the list as any point value.
Yeah.
I kind of read it as it means the homeowner can put up a
It would be
privacy
like a
fence.
flagpole has no point value either, but we're
Yeah.
not going to state that. It's
That you can put up a privacy fence just around your stuff, your electrical stuff, without having to come for a fence permit.
I mean, we can remove it. I'm definitely fine with that.
Because I think
I
most homeowners do that when they build, is they put the privacy fence around.
Do we
it.
need this in here?
I guess not.
It doesn't matter one way or another.
Hey, you see that last sentence in D? Okay, striking. Everybody agree with striking that?
Yep.
I think it's superfluous. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
um, I'm glad to see we do give points for no irrigation. Or that type of planting, I should say. Drought tolerant. think we need to, at least in the future, consider really advocating those kinds of sustainable gardens. All right, are we ready to move on to 3.25 tree preservation?
Yeah.
Sybil, anything specific that you'd like to bring out in
No,
this section?
no. I think we've gone over it a lot.
I think everybody will note that Wes, I think, has done what I'm learning to understand it, or it's creeping up on me. But it seems to be very positive where we're just talking now about regulated trees and heritage trees. That to me makes it easier in my brain to the have we now in C permit required for regulated and heritage tree removal in C4? Have we now turned it with the new wording over to the Board of Adjustment?
Only in the event that someone wants to remove a heritage tree.
When you
So
say someone, you mean in my yard, I want to remove a heritage tree, or are you talking
Let
about
me
a
see.
developer that's building 20 homes in a subdivision?
one moment.
Because I think we're talking really about everybody.
Tree removal permit is not required for a lot occupied by a single family residence. A tree removal permit is not required for removal of non-regulated or non-heritage trees.
All right, is that meaning that if it's a subdivision of 50 lots and you're dealing with one lot where you want to remove it, the developer wants to remove a tree, he doesn't have to come to us? Or does that, are you,
You got where you guys live, you're not subject to this.
okay, but is that clear? Because a subdivision is made up of a whole bunch of single-family lots.
I understand. Yes, I mean I believe Chad understands that, but remember, a duplex is subject to this. So
Yes.
you know the way that it's written and has been written, and we talked about this, but
Mhm.
I think Chad understands what that means. That language.
We're talking about paragraph
Yes, I do.
C2
Right.
we're on right now, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
A
But
lot.
if you think about it, you are approving a preliminary plat. They're not carved out into single family lots until a final plat. So,
Except I think Pete's saying that well, it does start as one lot,
yes.
but that's yeah.
But it's not occupied, is the.
It-
We're talking about an occupied home or duplex.
Not necessarily.
Here.
If I own a vacant lot in the middle of Sea Trail,
This
I
think
can do what I want with it.
we are getting ready to go up, bark up a tree that we don't need to bark
I
up.
know, and it's
So-
and I'm listening to you when you say that we really don't have we don't have the standing. The state would probably be against us if we tried to regulate trees on single family.
No, you
lots.
you can do it, but you know you got to understand that if you guys want to cut down a tree or someone else wants to cut down a tree and then they can't do it, I know who's getting the phone calls. It's going to be the elected officials. So we already discussed this.
I know.
We can discuss it again.
No,
I have no issue.
I'm
but-
just trying
okay.
to, because we've now changed the types of trees, if
Sure.
regulated versus heritage. I want to make sure that, and I'm against cutting down
Sure.
heritage trees even on my own lot
Yeah.
unless I have a reason for it and I come to Chad.
Mhm.
But I've been told that that is unenforceable.
I mean, they do it in multiple other places, but it is difficult to enforce. But I think that in our long discussions
HOA.
on this topic, we arrived at the fact that it made sense to allow a homeowner to do what they want with the trees on their lot.
Well, I guess what I'm hearing from Pete is I'm all for letting the homeowner have leeway in terms of doing this. What I don't want to see is through some technicality,
No, that
a subdivision owner of 50 lots says, well, I own these lots. I'm going to go down here and cut
Nope.
down these trees.
no.
So the language as it stands would prohibit a developer of 5, 10, however many lots,
Sure.
absent a permit, cutting down a heritage tree.
Correct. Absent a variance issued by the Board of Adjustment, which is a pretty heavy lift, and or there's got to be very good reason for it.
Well, I mean, the heavier the lift it is, the better, because, I mean, what you hear from the engineers is, well, we got to cut these things down so we can adhere to storm water regulations that North Carolina is imposing. I mean, you'll hear that from every engineer, from every developer that I've talked to. And so we need to have something in our pocket that says, okay, well, we're going to make it difficult for you too, and pick your poison.
Can we move on to number, I gotta get the alpha character, C7,
I have a couple of questions on the table.
okay?
3.12 table. The regulated tree list there somehow, and maybe we discussed it and I missed it, the red bud got axed from the list. It used to be item C in the heritage tree determination, and it seems to have not made the cut list here as being one of the regulated
You are
trees.
looking at details.
Yes,
We did.
I-
Is that inadvertently got,
no.
or was it? Did we make a decision to remove the red bud from the list?
Well, it would. I believe it would fall under other ornamental flowering trees.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about heritage trees specifically?
Well, it says
Heritage trees we talked about at length on substantially limiting the applicability of the heritage tree because the standard was going to be so high for having to remove them. And so there is only 4 species that are in here.
Mhm.
Live oaks, cypress, and longleaf pine. There's 2 categories of
Cypress. Mhm.
And otherwise there's going to be regulated trees that are a more
And
broad
they have to be 30
category.
They have to be 32
well,
inches
because
also.
under our
They
old,
have to be 32 inches.
yeah, but under our old one, the red bud was a 4-inch tree, so it would have been in the top table, the top list, the top square.
It still is because it's an
Well, he says it's any other
ornamental flowering tree.
other ornamental flowering trees.
We can call it out specifically as well if we need to.
Is that?
I
do
guess
you want it? Do you want it called out?
Well, yes, I guess, because it matches what we've been doing,
Would
I
the
guess.
rest of the board agree that we're going to add red bud onto the specific list?
Sure.
Which list are we adding it to?
It's that first,
Regulated
Richard,
trees.
the regulated trees, the
4
first
inches.
square where it says live oak, dogwoods, magnolia. If you look at our old list, the red bud was item C on that list for a 4-inch tree.
I would like to add it.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
And you agree?
That's fine.
Okay.
I want to do a quick review. The heritage trees don't include red oaks?
We don't really have red oaks here.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
do. We do.
I don't know of any.
I mean, a lot of them get mistaken for live oaks.
No. I mean, I think you're talking about certain species of water oaks or laurel oaks or
And oaks.
or potentially pin oaks. We can open this discussion again, but we arrived on these very specific couple sets
We've done this once. Yeah.
of trees.
Okay, let's leave it at this now. I'm going to do a little more research because what I can tell you specifically, I thought I had a live oak in my front yard. It's a red oak. It's not a live oak. Okay. And I have a feeling there's a lot of live oaks out there that can be redesignated as red oaks. Red oaks ought to be preserved.
Live oaks are a very specific species.
Oh, I know. Live
but-
oaks are very specific.
Yep.
But there are other oaks that we might want to include in heritage trees that are relevant or unique to the area that are very similar to live oaks. We'll
All right,
come
I'd
back
like
to this.
If everybody would agree, I'd like to move on to sections 325C7, of which we talk about regulated and heritage trees.
What page is that?
This is on page 3-92, and it's in the middle of the page. It's number 7 paragraph. And we talk about the tables that we've just discussed.
Yep.
When we talk about replacement, how did we deal with replacing it on the same lot or in the general vicinity of where we're taking the tree down, as opposed to somebody saying, I'm going to move it down the block and put that replacement tree?
It's got to be on site. And I mean, it would be preferable that you all established a fee in lieu for an event that they can't be placed on site, but you don't have that mechanism right now.
But we can say unless coordinated or approved by the UDO administrator, so that in a site-specific situation where I can't plant that tree, the replacement tree on my lot, and you're sitting down with a plot plan and you say, yes, that's true. All right, where do you want to put it? Yes, I approve that. But I think there should be some wording that says, and plant it on the same lot or as close to the tree removed as possible, or something like that. And this is under number 7 before you get into A.
I kind of thought this should have been a separate paragraph in general, but
Well, I'm asking because I don't know if it,
I think it can be subjective.
mitigation should be a separate
Because
paragraph.
again, when you look at a preliminary plat, it's not subdivided officially
Right.
until the final plat.
okay, where we deal with this then in mitigation, is there something in the wording that we haven't quite come to yet that says that if you're mitigating a tree, where you can mitigate it?
Yeah, you have to put it-
Mitigating wetlands is different. You can mitigate wetlands, 20 miles away from where you're destroying a wetland. But
I mean, it has to go back on the same site, so anywhere on that big property.
do we address that
We can-
under mitigation somewhere down the line? That's my point.
That I've never had that come up, but we can put a statement in there to that effect. Such trees shall be replaced on site.
Yes, and the way that this works is, and that we had a long discussion. We got a 1-for-1 here on DBH, right? So you take down a 36-inch oak, you get 18 2-inch trees. If it's a live oak, 9 of those 18 are going to be live oak. If it's not a live oak, if it's something else on the heritage tree list, you're going to get one of the one that got knocked down and 17 different things, right?
Yeah,
Is that what we're doing?
hopefully. We'll see if
Right? I mean, that's what
my guess is by the time this session is over with the General Assembly, all this is going to be taken out.
Mhm. It
But-
almost happened 2 years ago.
That's scary.
Yep.
That's
Well,
unfortunate.
let them do it.
Well, that's
Yeah.
they're
But
elected. So
anyways,
but did I interpret that right? Is that how this is work?
It's one of
So
the-
you remove one 36-inch tree if it happens to be the live oak, right?
yep.
Then
You
you,
need
get
to put back
you get
18
18
inches.
2-inch tree. 9 of those have to be live oak.
Well,
Because
it's based on the amount of inches
Yeah.
planted back. Yes.
Yeah. So 36-inch tree live oak goes.
Yep.
You get 18
That you-
2-inch trees,
Yes. And then
and
9
because it was a live oak on
Nine-
paragraph B,
nine-
50% of those 9 of the 18 have to be live oak.
Yep. That's
if it
right.
happened to be a 36-inch
Yep.
something else,
Yep.
then you get one of the something else, because in the thing above it only says one has to be the same species, and then you get 17 of something else. You get one of what got removed.
Yep.
And so this is how this is work, and we're all good with that.
That's correct.
Chad, you're kind of looking at me like I'm off that correct.
No,
You don't view it that
I'm
way.
I'm wondering if y'all hear and wondering how effectively easily that is to enforce.
Right.
I'm sorry, say it again.
That's why I kind of said what
Chad's
we,
talking about an enforcement issue.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
that what
I mean-
we did here. This is what we're doing.
I
So
mean-
you take down a 36-inch tree.
Yes.
If it happens to be a live oak,
Yes.
you get, if somebody puts up 18 2-inch tree, 9 of those have to be live oak.
Yep.
2 inches what they have to put
And
in.
you better have a big yard.
Well, this is the whole subdivision we're talking about. So somebody, I'm just saying it happens to be, there's a big subdivision, there's only one 36, 36-inch oak in the
Yeah.
way. It comes down, you get 9 2-inch oaks, and you get 9 of some other trees
That's
that we
correct.
allow.
Yes.
If
Of
it's
what
a,
height?
if it's a 2-inch diameter, we'll talk about height.
We never talk about height.
That it is. It's
Is it?
it's on the on table 3.5.
Yeah, but we don't talk about height on mitigation, do we?
The plant, we talk about the planting material and we call out canopy trees.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. We talked 3.5 and 3.7. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
And I mean,
Two
and
inch
Ron,
trees.
it's
And they have a
fine.
height.
I mean,
They don't have a height.
But that I just
it'd
want
just be
to.
something that I have
Height's
to
at
get used
maturity,
to.
isn't it?
So we're gonna
we
get
just talk about. Sorry, we talk about at the height at
maturity,
at
but not the
maturity.
minimum
That's
height.
correct. Shrubs have a height.
Is there a minimum height?
No.
So they could take down an entire forest and replace it with 4-inch trees, is what you're telling me.
Well, 2-inch
so
diameter.
long.
2-inch
The
diameter.
key is the diameter.
Yes.
That's how you
Yes.
regulate them.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's how you're regulating what you're taking down. So it's,
No.
they're
Right.
trying to be consistent.
But you're mitigating with 2-inch trees. But I guess the question, Richard, and maybe I didn't hear you right, is a new 2-inch oak, is it 4 foot high or 6 foot high? Or?
It doesn't matter. I mean, they vary, but typically there's a standard height associated with. I mean, they
nurseries?
could also get someone will also find a 3-inch or a 4-inch, but those are much harder to find. But this is how they're regulated.
And their survivability
So,
is not very high.
For Chad's point of view, what I see is going to happen is you got this preliminary plat subdivision, and I believe in here we require a tree survey, right? And they got to survey everything that's
Yep.
from that other table 4 inches or bigger, right?
Yep.
So they have to identify every tree on the property that's 4 inches or bigger, and then mark the ones that they're removing for whatever.
Take photographs.
Photographs? You see photographs? I don't ever see photographs.
Well, it
on
goes
here.
into D4.
Did I miss that? Okay. So correct me. Is there a photograph of every tree?
Photographs of trees or groups of trees to be removed.
Okay.
I circled that and I said, is this really
I
necessary?
don't know, is that really, is that necessary or?
It's in your old language,
Yeah.
but it'd be fine to take out.
So
Chad,
maybe,
you want to see photographs?
No.
okay, I missed that.
I'd
one.
like to
And I
make a
mean,
point
that's where the
that-
tree survey comes in. That's
Yeah.
what I want to see.
You want to see the
Not
trees there with the little circles and it
Yeah,
says,
that's what's required on every single.
But a photograph isn't going to mean
So-
much to you.
No.
so in our requirements here, we're saying that they do a tree survey. Do they have to produce the list of the trees to be removed? Or are you
Yeah.
supposed to figure that out?
They would.
It would provide the list of trees to be removed.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some tree surveys where they just put like an X,
And I'm okay
Well,
with
no,
that
but
too.
we would have.
but
you
but
would
they're
have a
required to
schedule.
do a table and say,
Yes.
of the tree removed, there's so many of this and it adds up to this many inches.
Yes.
Well, but it says it right here.
Does it?
Under 2,
Yep.
at the bottom of that page and going on to the next one. And removal plan must identify the size, species, height, drip line, health of regulated and heritage trees and groups of trees. But
Well, I just want to make sure we got to hear that Chad isn't spending hours trying to figure out which trees are going and which trees are coming in.
I mean, I'm going to be spending hours on other stuff, but
I
the
know,
tree
but
survey
it
is-
should be simple that here's a table of what's coming out.
but that would be a tree survey. That's,
Yes.
I think. To me,
Yes.
it was clear, but
Yes.
Well, I've seen surveys where
I
you
mean-
just have the X's on the ones coming out.
on
There's
on
not a
plan.
summary table that says this.
But to
I
me,
don't
that's
want
not a-
him to add up the inches.
But that's not a tree survey, I don't believe.
In other words, I don't.
Chad, what is your expectation when somebody puts a tree survey on your desk? What should it tell you?
On 3.94, page 3.94F, how it describes a tree survey.
The heritage tree shall show the general location, species, size, however, research
We
should
can
not be.
read.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, I like this. I don't know if we need to write it in here, is that they provide Chad with a table that shows exactly what's being removed and the
Yeah,
inches.
I mean, again, I think it's implied in the tree survey. I mean, that would be what a tree survey is.
Yeah. And I want, and do we get an itemized list of what trees are going to be left?
Yes, and the tree removal permit requirement, it's in there.
Where?
In the line that you read already, Mr. Chair, in D2, talking about the location. I mean, we can put in list here if we need to, but there is a removal plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little broad for me.
Well, but in being reasonable, I think Wes is right. you're not going to be able to show drip line height and species and everything else on a plan that just has an X mark. You're going to have to do it in a list.
Yeah,
It's-
I'm agreeing.
And so
Well-
Chad would have the benefit of looking at that list. I think
Yeah.
this.
All I'm trying to say is make sure
A-
that he
a-
gets a list that's easy
a-
for him to use.
A planting schedule / list may accompany, I mean, we can say must accompany
Yeah, I'd say
Yep.
so.
the plan.
Okay.
So all he has to
And
do
we're going to
that.
take number 4 out of there.
But yeah, we can take 4 out of there.
And for what in,
D4 on page 3.
oh, yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're on
No,
D.
D.
D4.
D4, remove the photographs.
Okay.
And I guess make sure it's a list must be provided. That just should make it easier on the reviewer to figure it out.
Thank you for putting in E.
Exemptions.
Yeah. I mean, I think before, without that in there, it was confusing to people who have heritage trees and have them damaged in storms and laying across roads. You know, if that weren't there, they'd be governed by the other rules.
Just for my own edification, Wes, when we talk about, and this is in a new section, which is E, exceptions, and we say in number 2, if any protected tree, is a protected tree the same as a regulated or heritage tree?
Correct.
Is there anywhere that we link that together?
I don't know if
I didn't
if
see it.
we provided a definition for that, but we can provide a definition, or we can merely just say regulated or heritage. It would
Okay.
be assumed to be
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
I wish Jerry was here because I was going to ask him about.
It's
course.
it's under 325B1. Regulated and heritage trees shall be considered protected trees.
Okay, thank you. I had missed that. So it can stay the way it was.
Is the golf courses, Chad, taking out 25 trees a year?
This
That seemed
came
like
up,
a big number to me, but is that like normal?
this was an issue that came up years ago, and
Because the golf courses have so many pine trees
Yep.
that cause lots of problems.
And they cause damage. It's a matter of, though, of forcing the golf course to only be able to control trees on their property and not on other people's property, because there's been issues with that.
So this 25 number is routine for them taking out trees
it
every year?
is what was.
For 18-hole golf course.
We had a very long discussion about this years ago.
Yes.
Yes, the discussion was
This is what was
wanted a higher number or a lower number or
Yeah.
this is what was arrived at based on discussion with our golf course community in the town and the planning board and town council at the time.
And again, they have to, we have the luxury here of having multiple 18-hole golf courses in the same facility. I guess I don't really have a problem with them putting a tree on another golf course adjacent to. Again, here we don't say the mitigation must be done on the golf course or on that same golf course. I'm going to back off that. I don't know that it matters.
Well, I don't think it's an area where at least the residents that I talk to have a lot of concern. The big concern is with all this new development that's being planned, how are the level of trees going to be mitigated? Because Sea Trail has a history of having a very well-wooded community, which I think to some extent, given the most recent developments, is somewhat in peril.
well wooded. Say that 3 times.
I think the way the golf course thing is drafted here is fine with me.
Yeah, I don't have a
Okay,
problem.
where are we now? What do y'all?
We are on page 3-93.
Is that all?
Number D is in dog. 8 talks about tree removal, golf course operations.
Yep.
I'm fine with that wording.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it as well. I do have a question.
Please.
In exceptions,
Yeah.
are there considerations made for the homeowner that may be willing to or wanting to install solar collectors in their appropriate place for maximum efficiency, who may, on their property, have trees that are obstructing that view?
If you're
Are you an
single family
idiot?
lot
If you're
owner,
single
you
family-
can remove them. You
Yeah.
don't even
Okay,
need
so
a
single
permit for it.
family, they got no problem. All right, fine, good. And multifamily, any of the MR3s, is that something that we
It's up
deal
to a
with?
If you're a duplex, then you're subject to this, and that may be something that you guys want to consider exempting a duplex. But
Okay. All right,
but right now, technically, if someone wants
I thought
to,
a duplex was.
It is
it
a sing-
only says single family. So if you guys,
But that was back on C2, right?
that's correct.
Where it says by single family, you could put single family or duplex there, right? If you want to clear it up.
It's up to you all. I mean, I think
We don't have a lot of duplexes, but we.
Yeah.
Yeah, because right, you don't need a permit if you got a single family home. I guess by definition, duplex is a single family home.
no,
No.
not per this ordinance.
So
Per building code.
Well, why don't we just say
single
Duplex.
family or duplex.
Okay, got it.
Yes. Sybil, you, I don't know if we cut you off. You were about to say something right there. Was that what you were talking about? Or?
No, I don't know. That was like 3 seconds ago. I can't remember that far.
It just basically that under C2, tree removal permit is not required for a lot occupied by a single family or duplex residence.
I mean, we jump back and forth so many times I get confused. Aren't we up to?
Under tree survey F, at the top of page 394, we distinguish when a tree survey shall not be required for land in a floodway. And then in parentheses it says, unless filled or developed in accordance. That threw me off. In other words, it can be in a floodway, but if you've got enough fill in it where it no longer floods, then you don't need a tree survey?
I believe that the intent
You
here
wouldn't
is
need a tree survey.
is that if you're doing any development in the floodway, then you would need a tree survey. So it maybe need to say unless subject to the placement of fill or development.
Okay.
That's the intent of that. But the in accordance, that's a
And
typo.
why is it saying that? Because you obviously, if you're, in order to do your development, you have to put fill in, then the tree is going
But
to die anyway.
Technically, a floodway is a non-encroachment area. No development should occur in a floodway. Period. And we do have areas that we do have trees and floodways. Are very limited here.
Cypress.
But it's just saying that you don't need to send a surveyor to pull all of that within a floodway that's not going to be developed anyways.
Going on to G, tree protection during construction. In number 1, right off the bat, I had a problem with it where it says a major objective of this section is to encourage the preservation. I would feel a stronger word would be is to require the preservation of existing vegetation.
yes.
Whenever, I mean, it gives them an out whenever possible, but, you know, to me, encouraging is just weak.
And I get a little uncomfortable with the word quality in there.
1 second. I mean, remember, these are trees that are being protected, so you're not removing them. I mean,
We're
you
talking about the objective of this section, and
Mhm.
I'd like to be clear to the reader what our objective is, and it is to require preservation
Okay.
where possible.
got it. Require.
Yeah, because I mean, what's followed, everything as a result required. So it's, yeah, I think that's I think it's required.
Oh, yeah. It's already there. As a result.
Yeah, as a result of us encouraging you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're required. So it's handled.
Yeah, then I don't see the problem with requiring it farther up the paragraph.
Whatever. That's
Okay.
fine. I made the change.
I was stuck on the critical root zone in G2, but when I go back and read the existing definition, I think that probably does deal with it appropriately.
Now, in item 4, following shall be prohibited within the critical root zone of any preserved tree except as may be necessary when constructing, repairing, or replacing public utilities. Does that include stormwater runoff?
That would not be.
It's not a utility.
Yeah, that's not a utility. Yep.
Okay.
I again wanted to be stronger. Instead of it saying may be necessary, I would like to say can't be avoided. But I'm not gonna.
I would go along with that.
I'll keep my powder dry on that one.
I'm going to wet it up again. I think it's appropriate.
Unless unavoidable.
Yeah, it can't be avoided.
Can't be avoided.
Yeah. And I say that because I've talked to engineers from 3 developers, and they have a very soft view of what is required. And I think we need to strengthen the language.
Where are we putting it?
Just
I'm at 326 on lot clearing preparation. Ron, do you have anything to add on that?
nope.
And we're powerless to avoid burns.
We're powerless to.
Avoid tree burns. Pile the trees in a great big pile like they did at the sanctuary and light a fire.
We are. We have. If the smoke creates a hazard or an aggravation, the fire chief can shut that down instantly.
Yeah.
Even if he's given a permit.
Has that ever been enforced?
Yes. Yes.
No, is it? Okay. But it's
very. I think of one instance, so it very limitedly. But
But
yes.
does that enforcement? So now they've ripped up all of Old Georgetown and are piling trees and
That's a
burning.
That's
county.
not us.
The county allows burning.
Okay, thanks. Wood did it, we're so.
Yeah, it's
So for the
every county.
record, who does provide those permits?
State.
Air quality.
Air quality. DEP.
State.
Well, it depends. The
DEP.
fire chief for
No,
land
I mean
clearing.
offsite. I understand.
The county.
County.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right, thanks.
Um, the I hear Wes loud and clear as to what we can and can't reasonably do. So I'm gonna. I didn't like B applicability. B to D T2E as in Edward on page 396. I didn't even like that even being there because I think it allows for wholesale removal of vegetation in a residential subdivision. But is there a benefit to having that there? It's under the section which is exemptions. But just don't know what benefit that is, and saying I think it's leading somebody to believe that they're exempt from if their goal is to remove vegetation.
It can
And
be taken
replace it
out.
with pine straw.
Okay, anybody have a problem with that?
Nope.
Removal of E.
Mm-mm.
Required buffers and vegetation protection areas. Richard,
Excuse me.
you're in the queue. What do you think about C, required buffers and vegetation protection areas?
Didn't raise any hackles for me. We're on C.
Mhm.
C?
Yeah, required buffer, yeah, it's on page 396.
Yep.
I was curious as to the dimensions in there, 50 feet, 65 feet, 32 feet. I would suspect that it's what we've had.
Yes. In this section, as part of the audit, was not suggested for any modification.
Okay,
Okay. And again, this is all variable in a conditional rezoning application.
This really is not. This is where someone just wants to more or less clear their lot, perhaps to sell it or some other mechanism, and they may not necessarily have a plan for it yet.
Okay.
And this is what this is attributable
Okay.
to.
Oh, right. Okay.
well, never mind, that's a housekeeping thing. What are the applicable fees for under E procedure, applicable fees for a tree clearing certificate? I do not see any fees that town council has approved as a fee to do something. Is this something that's our planning department has?
Do you have
Chad?
that in your fee schedule?
It's just a zoning, I mean, a tree removal permit or,
Perhaps you need to add a tree clearing.
I'll look into it.
Yep,
Yeah,
I would
this
just make it
calls
the same.
It says tree
same.
clearing certificate, and that to me just I have a file folder to put that in. Chad, what else can we call it?
I would just call it that, and it'd probably be the same fee as a tree removal.
Okay. All right, anybody have an objection to moving on to page 398, non-compliance of this entire section, which is lot clearing and preparation?
Two six B applicability. No, that stays right. 3.26B.
No, that was 3.26 B2E.
E the very on page
You see
396.
that? Yeah, we removed just that paragraph.
Yeah.
All right, we're under non-compliance now for lot clearing and preparation. I had nothing with that table. It talks about penalties. I don't really know what all of that means, but I'm sure that somebody in clerical capacity knows exactly what all of those payments and fines and
Chad, are you okay with it?
He's good.
All right. One quick question. In those instances where an HOA's regulation is in conflict with this, either that they're more restrictive or less restrictive. When they're more restrictive, I'm assuming the HOA takes precedence. When they're less restrictive, I'm assuming the town takes precedence.
That's correct.
Because in the HOA, it's typically single family. You still have to go to the HOA to cut a tree. Okay.
under the definitions that I come to next, which was still in the January 19th homework assignment for the planning board, under trees regulated, because we dealt with the red bud, I think you wanted added, don't we need to add it again here? It's always complicated when you state the same thing in two places, because if you make a change, you got to make sure you remember to change it in two places. Is there a way we can simplify it?
Well, actually, this board requested that we define it in the text of the ordinance in addition to the definition. That's why it's in here two places. We can take it out of the narrative and leave it just as a definition, but
It's probably better in the narrative. Isn't it?
it
That's
needs
what
to be
people-
in the definitions, period.
It needs to be in the definition.
Yes.
But then I guess we leave it as it is.
Well, and it's in a chart or a table in the body,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it would be more difficult. And just for the record, I have a problem with us regulating pine trees, but it is what it is.
We that can be taken out. I mean, we had this discussion. It was determined that you guys wanted to make any other species over 18 inches subject to this, in addition to adding the longleaf at 32. If you want to exempt pines, period, then we need to do that. But
Would that make your life simpler?
Yes.
Where
I mean-
are we at on this?
It's under definition on page 7-17 for trees, tree regulated. It mentions pine tree. And what Wes is saying is that if we go back to the table we looked at before, which is 3.12 for regulated heritage trees, we say all other tree species 18 inches or larger.
What's the page?
Around
That's on 391, is that table, 312. Wes, what would you think, and Chad, I guess you even more important, if we could put a little caveat in that table that excluded pine trees? And for the edification of the board, does anybody else have gas about, we happen to have a particular situation here in Sunset Beach because of International Paper owning the majority of this area over time,
Right.
that there is a plethora of
Pine
pine trees. And they are not longleaf pines, they are,
Pine trees.
and
loblolly scrubs.
and when a windstorm comes, those are the ones that
Those
crack
are the ones that go.
about halfway up and fall on your roof.
I guess, yeah. But a loblolly,
It-
do they get over 18 in diameter?
Yep.
They do?
Yes,
Yeah.
I know the longleaf does.
both do. They're very difficult to distinguish between the two. In fact, arborists, horticulturists have
Well, okay.
trouble identifying. But the question for you guys is if you want to take them out. Remember, single family and duplex are not subject to this.
So in this table, we could alter where it says any other species, not including pines or not including.
Just
Excluding.
tell me
excluding-
if you want to do it, and I'll write it up.
Well,
write
what
it
does the
up.
board think? I brought it up.
I'm concerned that if you, and I know they're not in our jurisdiction, but the trees that make Ocean Ridge look like a well-wooded area are primarily pines. And a good chunk of what makes the area here look well-wooded. So I'm just concerned that you're now going to give license to people, and I get the relative danger, and we do make concessions on that. But it does seem to me you're eliminating a broad species of trees that provide a fair amount of coverage and again, the biggest thing I hear from people that I talk to is they're taking down too many trees.
Well, they got their house somehow.
Yes, but many of those folks are in areas where they've had
But-
I'm going to back off my suggestion because we do have an 18-inch caveat in there. So if it's less than 18 inches, they can take it down anyway.
right.
So I think to have the verbiage highlighting pine trees might even make it more confusing. I'm happy with leaving it the way it is at 18 inches.
Okay.
Okay.
By God, we need to have something in here that says that Bradford pears are not allowed. And I don't know if we can really do that.
I mean, it's not included in your planting list, so presumably, if anyone's subject to requiring to plant something,
They couldn't plant that.
that's right. But
you
if you
couldn't
want to
plant-
plant a Bradford pear in your yard, I don't think we're going there.
What
Okay.
is the problem with Bradford pears? I'm just
They're
curious.
invasive.
They're what?
They're
it's a weed
invasive.
tree, and they break off. They are.
It's a weak tree. I
They get
know
to be.
that.
They get to be 10 years old, and they're falling apart.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they-
So
And
that,
they were-
okay, I just wondered if there was something else, like carrot disease or something. But
Good.
And if there
Developers
happens to
love
be
'em.
one on a, if some happens to be some on a site, they can just remove it, right? Because it's
Yeah.
allowable to be removed.
If it's over 18 inches, though, it's subject to
No, on
mitigation.
a residential site.
Just,
Yeah,
not
but they're
a-
never going to get it.
No.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
this
Okay.
is a little side note, it's
ahead.
really not, but if somebody, if a vacant lot has pine trees that have been damaged by a storm, is there anything that the town can do about that?
There's an exemption under a declared state of emergency to allow for.
I mean, well, let's just say they've been killed because lightning went down the tree
Mhm.
and they're still there and they're gonna fall eventually. Is there anything in the town that you can,
They can be removed.
It can be removed.
Yeah, but she's saying, can you
But
make
they're
them,
not gonna
can you
remove- who
make
else-
them remove them? Can we do that under our nuisance ordinance?
Potentially, it would be something in your
Health and safety.
in your general code. Yeah.
I just,
Yes, ma'am.
Just
Good
like you
point.
can make somebody maintain their lot.
yeah,
If
right.
there's something on that lot that is not safe.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know if it's written that way now. It's been changed so many times, I guess.
Well, it was just recently done,
So
and it seems to be
if the
working.
tree is down, it has to be removed. I don't. She's saying if the tree happens to be upright, maybe not. I don't remember how it's written. Okay.
We're close. We're getting there. If we can make it through February, I'll buy everybody lunch.
Okay, I am through the definition page, but just as a housekeeping point, we just finished with section 3.26,
You stayed.
lot clearing and
Can I
preparation.
see your definition page? I don't think I got one.
It wasn't positioned here, but I want to put the definitions at the end of, see the page number?
Yeah. Thank you.
You want to make a note of that?
So we're moving what used to be in section 7 into section 3, is that?
Well, but we have a gap here, and I have a question for Wes. Is this stormwater? That the gap between 3.26 we just finished and 3.41, which is what the signs, which is the next thing we're going to.
My apology, Mr. Chair. That should actually be 326 through 340. That is
Well, it
just
should
a,
be 327.
yes. That's just a typo, or 327.
But what is that? It's reserved. I want to
So
know.
that if you guys get a wild hair and you want to add another section, then you can do it without renumbering the entirety of the other sections.
Just
Okay.
blank
So
section.
it's a space holder.
Placeholder. Yep.
Okay. All right, so now we move on to
341, right?
341 signs.
Which actually that'll end up being what?
327.
No.
Well, no, it'll be
341.
331. That there's a typo there. That should have been
Oh,
three.
you didn't want to leave that many space holders.
Correct.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
it
It should be 326 to 330.
327. to
Or sorry, 327 to
330.
330.
Yeah.
And this would be then
This would
31.
be 331.
Right.
Yeah.
So signs
that-
is, when you collapse it, will be
Okay, you see
331.
Correct.
All right, signs is 3.31.
And before you get started, I think I heard this. Definitions will still be in a separate article.
Yes.
It will be in separate. It'll be 7.
But he's
Okay.
providing us definitions
To
sort
go
of as
along
we
with
go
the
along.
material that
too.
we have.
New
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
definitions.
Yes, thanks for that correction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Signs.
I want to bring up a point here, Mr. Chair, if I may, as we look through signs. And I know we've spent a lot of time, I know in my 2 years, talking about signage. I know y'all have spent more time beyond my time here at Sunset Beach talking about signage, is paying attention to the lines on the left-hand side of the margin of the page and up underneath it, as far as what's new material, what's added material, and what was existing material. Because there's a lot of here that was left over, carried over with no audits from the now UDO that we have now.
Yes.
So it might limit your talking points and questions.
Yeah, the big thing that was replaced with signs based on our discussion of review of the primary was not to allow basically freestanding pole signs. That's the most substantial. The vast majority of it remains the same, with the addition of clarifying that feather flags are allowed. Other than that, it's essentially as it
As it
is now.
Can I?
Yep.
Well, I had nothing on the whole first page, 3-100. I have some margin notes, but most of it's just housekeeping, so I don't need to waste time on it.
I don't have this.
This is the February 2nd homework assignment that was handed to us at the last meeting. That's the date, February 2, 2023, in the upper right-hand corner of each
And-
page.
All right, I have that, but I don't have any papers that go with it. I just have the
No, we can
cover sheet,
take a time out here and get another copy right quick.
because I don't have it.
Did he go to get a copy for you?
Yeah, I had it I put my paper clip on it. That was the last handout before today's handout.
Yeah, well, I have that.
We don't have today's
Receipts too,
handout yet.
Right.
Okay, good. I thought I had missed something.
Yeah, dated February 2nd, 2023 is what everybody's got, right?
Yes, that's what I have.
I have that.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. then.
I have this,
Okay, you have the cover sheet.
But no sheets attached.
but I don't have
You didn't get the
anything.
attachment, yeah.
No.
Okay.
So there should have
And
been
I've
like,
gone through
there should be like
everything,
10, 12 pages attached.
Yes.
Unless it just got put in the wrong place.
Yeah,
right?
check in your book to see if it's behind your other
No,
ordinance
because I went through
material.
my book and
Chad,
got
oh,
organized with what we've
All
done.
right, check. Jed's got an extra
Thank you,
copy.
Chad.
Thank you. Because I
Hope you're a speed reader.
went through here. I went through the original
Okay.
and made notes,
No, well, you'll be close then.
except they
I'm going to
won't see
move,
this
if
stupid book.
anybody, because we've spent quite a bit of time, quality time on signs up to this point, particularly monument signs and entrance signs. But if I could, under 331 signs, under C as in Charlie, signs exempt from permitting requirements. We talk about 1A, traffic directional signs, but, and we've beat on this before, but we say above adjacent grade. Our definition is above highest adjacent grade. Highest adjacent grade is what we have a definition for. And I think it's important that we keep linking back to that highest adjacent grade because it talks about before any fill has been put in. So it adds a datum point, which is, to me, clear. But if you just say adjacent grade, you could change the grade into site development and then start there as your...
Let's just get rid of above the adjacent grade and just say 3 feet in height. Sound good?
Sure.
Okay.
Anybody have any gas with that?
No.
Okay. Um,
I have something on N,
go
Um,
for it.
item N, the temporary banners on 3-102, subsection 4, temporary banners shall be secured and designed as to withstand high winds. I guess two ways to look at this is get rid of it because it's vague, or should we have a MPH put in there? I mean, okay, temporary banners are secured and designed such to withstand high
I
winds.
got that. What is that?
What does it mean?
Miles per hour.
Oh,
Yeah,
No.
but some
Or should we just get rid of it
get rid
and then
of it.
my thought was get rid of it and say they have to be removed during the named storm. It's a temporary banner, right?
Yeah.
Because we're saying they can be up 14 days, 3 times a year.
Yep.
I mean,
whatever you guys want to do. I think
I don't see how you can.
Can't we just follow, isn't it stated somewhere else for permanent banners where
Yeah.
we can just reference that?
it does. It doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want. If someone spends a bunch of money on a banner, they're not going to want it to blow away. And God forbid if it does, they're going to go find it. But we can get rid of this. We can reword it. We can do whatever we need to do. It's already been in here. I would not say add something in here about named storms. Chad's not going to be running around making sure people are taking down banners during named storms. We need to understand that these are humans. And if
Yeah.
they spend
Okay.
$500 on a banner, God forbid they don't want it running down the street.
I think that's reasonable,
Yeah.
and my
Yeah.
nonprofit puts up banners, so we take very good care of them because they're very expensive.
Yes.
Can I move a little bit backwards under C and G, as in glory? Holiday season decorations. I know that's extremely subjective. I know there's an awful lot of different types of holidays, but don't we need to somehow regulate the duration for a holiday seasonal decoration?
Well, depends on what holiday it is.
What?
Depends on what holiday it is.
Well, I wrote here placed blank days prior to and removed 10 days after the holiday.
Do you know what every particular holiday is?
Yeah, I think that's,
Well, I don't think they need to be named, but if somebody wants to celebrate Easter or Kwanzaa or I guess my birthday's not a holiday, but they,
we
there
could
has to
change
be a
that.
reasonableness time. Or are you saying we really can't make people take?
You can, but I think again, you guys
Waste
are
of time.
turning the town into an HOA with trying to do something like that.
Yeah,
I agree.
Well taken. Or
Taken.
All right.
Take it.
in the spirit of never mind. Special event signs.
Oh, wait a minute.
It seems to me that there's a difference between an on-premise special event sign and a sign that is placed somewhere around the town advertising a special event. And Chad, do we have any issues with on-premises versus off-premises signs? Like if there's a gun show, we saw it the other day, there were signs all over town about a gun show in Charlotte.
That's in section P.
P is in
P.
temporary off-premise special events. Okay, event signs.
where is that?
P.
P.
Just above it. Or
Page.
E.
103.
So
Three
in
dash
other
103.
words,
Right.
okay, all right, I see the link. I see the link.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
You always
Because
can.
I had this in the old book too. Where you get down to safety signage, that you cannot, wait a minute, where is it? 16 individual safety signs on a lot? Why would you need 16 safety signs?
Which
This
section?
is K on
Yep.
page 101, 3101.
That again, remember we went through this and there was no reason to change it. So and I don't believe that it's created an issue in the past. So I mean, you guys can
Okay,
change it.
and
if
that's
you
fine.
want.
I just,
I think of this as a construction site primarily. I mean, that's what it says. You got an open building permit. So
if you got 16 signs on one lot, you got trouble.
And again, safety signage, so hard hats, stuff like that, that's not advertising.
Okay, thank you. You answered my question.
So we were.
I'm
at
assuming
O,
there's like a reason
P.
under the state law that we changed election signs to political signs, right? Is that the state law?
that's how they referred to in the general statute.
Right.
They
We don't
refer
need a
to-
definition then because we don't have one?
I believe they are defined in your ordinance, but we can
Oh, I was
add
just
one.
looking at the definite. We don't sign.
And I see that we've added feather flags here with some with parameters, which I think this is what we agreed to.
Mhm.
And,
Um,
okay, I'm trying
That's
to
a new
put the two
section symbol.
together. Special events, where's that? Why do we have
special events
circus-
is O?
Why do we have circuses? Do we still have circuses in special events?
Well, you
Unless you
could.
want to ban them.
Well,
You
I
could.
don't
We
even-
could.
You could in the parking lot right next to us here. We could have a fair with a circus.
a fair is one thing. A
Well,
circus
take
is
that
something
back. We
different.
could have a-
And to me,
carnival.
I didn't even know they still had circuses. I
They
thought
do.
they
They do.
died with Barnum and Bailey or something.
No, there's still circuses.
Okay,
floating around.
that's my question. Thank you.
We'll add a definition of political signs.
Well, or,
Yeah, but I mean, it still feels like a political sign has to be tied to an election.
It is, but this is a way. This comes from the statute,
Mhm.
GS 136-32. It is tied to election period, but they're referred to specifically as political signs, not election signs.
So I may put up a sign that doesn't promote a candidate, but promotes a issue.
So you're allowed a yard sign on your
On your
property,
yard.
in your yard, but this is for placement in the right of way. You know, when the election comes up, you'll see signs plastered all everywhere. That's what this is.
Okay, right.
Let me ask about P as in Peter, temporary off-premise event signs, or page 3-103. We're limiting that sign to 6 square feet. Okay, that's an off-premise event sign.
Mm-hmm.
We allow on-premise signs to be
4.
well, I don't know what we allow them to be, but 6 square feet seems awful small if you're trying to notify the public about off-premise about an event at, let's say, at the town park. And there's other areas where we limit that size to 32 square feet and a maximum height of 4 feet. And as an example, let's say we're having an event at the town park. I would suspect that.
But the town is exempt from these.
Well, what if we have a market
Got it.
at the town park?
It's fine. You guys can increase it.
Well, I don't think you can show much on a 6 square foot sign. That's 3 by 2.
But-
Well, that's 3 by 2. That's
That's an election sign.
Well,
Yeah.
size, yeah. Like those little push-in signs.
yeah.
Well, it seems like when I was going through the original one, all of the signs were 4 feet, and then this one became 5 feet.
It's 6
And now
feet.
you're saying you don't think 5 feet's enough.
Well,
3
I'm
by
saying
5 or whatever,
I'm-
4 by 5, whatever.
no, it's 5 feet from the designated road surface, and the sign can't be
Yeah.
any more than 6 feet.
6 square
I
feet.
mean, the signs we put up for our town concerts are bigger than 6 square feet.
But you're putting.
I know the town
that's
is
a
exempt.
But that's a temporary banner that's on premise, correct? Or is it
No,
off
this is a
premise?
temporary off-premise event sign is where I am.
But where do you put those signs up?
At the roundabout.
At the roundabout? So you guys can change it. Just let me know what you want it to be.
I don't really care.
Well, yeah. 9 square feet, that's 3 by 3, right?
But a banner that, I know the banners that my nonprofit gets are 3 feet high by 8 feet long. So that's 24, that's 30 square feet or 32 square feet. That is a standard banner, and my nonprofit as well as others do that all the time. Now, it's a temporary banner, so there's a restriction as to how long it can stay up.
No, this to 14 days.
But I'd like to see it as, instead of P1, I'd like to see instead of 6 square feet, it's 32 square feet and a maximum of 4 foot high.
Well, 3 by 8 would be 24, right?
3 by 8 would be 24. You're right.
Right.
Yeah, and
24.
that's the size that's a standard banner size.
Yeah, that would also be for rather than a banner, a posted sign. Because I've seen signs that are temporary, but
Like
they
a
are on
poster
2
board.
posts. And so it would include those as well.
You're going to be picking up some
So
big
let's change it to
old
24 square feet.
signs out. Okay.
Uh-oh, I see Chad brewing.
I'm not brewing. Those signs are typically supposed to be limited to on-site for
Yeah.
temporary events for those banners.
But-
So if they're in the park, they're supposed to be
I know.
limited in the park.
And we have
And
stanchions at the park that receive those. We've got
Yes.
3 of them there.
so
But
technically, those banners are not supposed to be off the premises. So if you want to expand it to your 36 square feet of sign, that's a
or
huge sign.
24, I can live with.
Yeah,
but
24.
it's-
But that's a huge sign in the right of way.
That's
Yeah.
it's a huge sign that's off premise. It's essentially a de facto billboard that you're now allowing. But
But for a
Small
limited
one.
time for a specific event.
And who's You said he's picking them up, aren't the people?
No, the people are picking,
There's-
the
They are,
nonprofits are picking them up.
they are
because
supposed to pick them up.
You save
but-
the post and you
Yeah.
you save the sign unless it's a dated sign.
It's
Chad,
up to y'all.
I guess what's your experience have been that people put signs up and don't pick them up, or it sounds like Pete's saying everybody picks them up.
No, I'm saying that's a big sign in a right of way being allowed.
3x8 is pretty big. Yeah, 3x8 is pretty big.
So
I know we're talking about advertising. I know we're talking about special events and advertising, get the word out.
Now, being an old person like
Uh,
me, I can tell you those little bitty signs, like the gun show signs,
You can't read them.
I can't read them when I'm going by 'em.
But
So-
you know, the other thing is that we live in a day and age where marketing is one of those things where it's
Yeah.
if you're you can there's other ways to get the word out about your event other than signage.
But signage in a community that we're in with
Well,
a lot of
again,
transient
it's up to y'all. I'm
vacationers.
just
It
saying
just
that
seems
there's-
contrary to you guys' general position
on
on
signs to keep them.
That's correct.
So-
but you guys can put it however you want it.
I mean, and think about it like this. I mean, well, never mind. I'm not going to say that. 'cause
Yeah.
it's not relevant.
Oh, please.
Let's
go
just
ahead.
figure something and let's just tell us what to put in there.
I
Let's
agree
move
that
on.
banner, the 3x8 seems out big to me.
Yes.
And I guess I would sort of agree with Pete that 6 square feet, which is 2x3, seems a bit small.
So-
So I'm happy to go with like 12 square feet, which is like a 3x4 sign. And if the
Call
event
it
planners
that.
can't deal with that, then
I don't think this has been an issue in the past,
It hasn't.
but we can change it. So
just leave it, I guess.
I mean, the
What's
issue
the,
is
what's the fine?
the I mean the fact that I can pick your sign up if it's larger than that and store it in my car until you can't put it there. That's been more of the issue is that why aren't these things allowed? And it's like, well, the reason is it's not common among other communities,
correct.
and it's a huge sign that is now in the right of way. That's more regulated on premises. I get that the people want to get the word out. I would
Encourage them to
I
find
would not
another way.
encourage it to be more than a 3x2 is standard. I know it's I don't want to
Okay.
step on anybody's toes and not being able to read that or anything like that. If there's two things I hate more than anything else, in my experience of planning, is dealing with temporary events and signage, not together but separate. They just happen to come into the same sentence with this. And the time that I have to be able to drop everything I'm doing and go pick up stuff out of the right of way is few and far between.
Well, is this something that could be handed off to the police?
Can we
No,
can
no.
we just
I mean,
can we leave it as is?
can we think about it?
Just
Yeah,
leave it.
sure.
Okay.
Before we vote, which we have to vote in a minute, can
Yes.
I make one final comment on T of the elections where I was at?
Okay.
Well, two comments, I
Political.
guess. We've changed subsection 3, I, to 10 feet from the edge of the road. I'm assuming we did that on purpose, but that seems like they're close, that the original 3 feet is where they were, aren't,
That was based on discussion about safety and those things being too close.
Yeah,
but,
I remember that.
but
Well,
if
we
they're from
allow
the edge,
temporary
is, there,
signs at 5 feet. We just the section we
So-
just came off of.
is
Yeah.
there usually that much room between the edge of the pavement and to be in the right of way? 10 feet on the side seems like a lot to me. Is there normally right of way?
I promise you, during election season, the further they are away from the road, the better.
Okay. And then and it might be just me again. So I don't know that if we talked about that and changed it to 10, so be it.
Okay.
It
So
just, it just seemed like a long way off the pavement. But that for safety reasons, that's good. The last one, X.
so the number
But
is
that's
5
not-
feet. Sorry.
No,
is
it's
that
10
private
feet.
property or is that
Right away.
Right away.
Right away.
there's right away on private property?
No, it has to be 10
I
feet
mean, it
from
could
the
be
pavement.
private right of way.
I mean, I've got a right away on my street, on my lot. It's a town road. That's town right away.
Well, it
But
can't
it's
be-
not on your property. It's adjacent to your property. So that's where it would go.
Okay.
Okay.
So in my home, I can put it as close to the road as I want.
No.
to the edge of
No.
the property.
You can
can't
put
put
it
it-
on your property all you want, but once you cross your property line into the right of way, it's got to be 10 foot from the edge of the pavement is what this specifies.
And if it doesn't
maybe
exist, if it doesn't exist, there isn't 10 feet, then you can't do it.
Then you've got to request that
You've
you
gotta
can
put it on
place
your
it in the property owner's.
Mhm.
So, again, I don't remember. And the other one, quickly before we vote, was on X. It says the party responsible for erecting, so hell, remove it, which we under. But you mean the party being the person or group that put it up, not the
Yes.
political party, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Person or group.
Yes.
Correct.
I just wonder if that.
Do you want to make that change?
Well, because it's in the political sign section. When I first read, I thought, okay, if it's a Republican running, they got to pick up this. But it said no, it's really the candidate, right? So it's the person or group that put it up, not the political
I
party.
think we're getting too far here with that statement. I think you're leaving it as the party responsible, the person
That's-
responsible, or
yeah. It
no, I don't.
The
Yeah.
person responsible.
Does it work?
Yes,
The person responsible
it
should
does
be.
work.
That's what it
Okay.
says.
Okay.
Person responsible.
Oh, I see. I see where you're confused because it says party
Party,
instead of person.
person. The
yeah.
person responsible takes it away.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, we have elections here that are nonpartisan.
All right,
so-
how do you
Yeah,
want it?
that's it. We got to take a vote.
Let's move on so
We
we
gotta
can
take a
vote
vote.
here. What are we going to change that word to? I had no problem with party responsible, or responsible party.
No, I don't either.
I believe that's how it's worded in the statute.
I think it's clear as to what that
Okay.
means. I don't think it's Republican, Democrat, or Independent. All right, putting a pause here. We're at 2 hours. I'd like to
30 minutes.
entertain a motion that we've got to finish getting through signs, and then we've got to get through non-conforming lots and structures.
I think Wes only got to 11:30, so 25 minutes.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion that we proceed until 11:30 with this meeting.
I second.
All in favor, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're now at prohibited signs.
No changes there.
There is a 1, but there's no 2 under prohibited signs. I assume things like that will get cleaned up in the,
That's done properly. It's by the list format. So it says the following signs are prohibited, and then it has to go indent into the next list.
Mhm.
If it said 2, then there would be technically, by the way of the wording, no signs that were prohibited. It would just list a bunch of signs and there'd be no applicability.
my statement is in outline format, there was a 1, but there's no 2.
But that's
Okay,
correct.
You've answered it.
that.
You've answered it. It's list format.
Yeah.
An A-frame sign under F. Is that what I would call like a sandwich board? An A-frame? It's a sign that's kind of leaning on
Yes.
itself. Do we allow people to wear sandwich boards on at an intersection and wave flags?
I've seen that. I don't know how you regulate that. I mean, it's somebody walking up and down wearing
Would have a
whatever they want.
T-shirt on or something. It's-
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. For my own edification, what's a snipe sign?
Thank you.
It's
That-
a
that's-
thing shooting off. We had a picture of it before, didn't we?
You mean like a gun?
No.
No, it's
If I
something.
have a gun and a flag
No.
comes out that says,
It's basically attached to a telephone pole or something
Yeah.
like that.
An off-premises sign that is tacked, nailed, posted,
Oh, is
pasted,
there a
glued,
definition?
Yeah, it
or
should be-
otherwise attached to trees, poles,
Yep.
stakes, fences,
Yep.
or other
I
objects.
didn't know there was
Correct.
a definition.
Yep.
Pardon me. Okay, never mind.
All right.
It's like a street sign, but not a street sign.
When we going to prohibited signs D on the next page 3-105 at the very top it talks about pavement markings. I would like to be clear that pavement markings must be placed by the DOT or the town. That somebody cannot go out and put pavement markings on a street.
That they would be under the terms of the general code for damaging property, etc.
Okay, so somebody can't mark something off in front of their house.
Yep.
For
I've never
whatever
seen
reason.
Seen that done,
On a
but I'm
public
sure
road.
it has been.
okay, on a private road,
Do what
can
you want.
Do what you want.
And just a reminder, we're getting rid of private streets, new private streets. in this new UDO. We're going all public.
That'll be in there.
Now, that doesn't mean we can make private streets that exist now go public, but
Correct.
all new streets will not
Yeah.
be able to be
And
private
new-
anymore. They have to be
In
public.
new
Okay.
subdivisions.
Isn't that something that we, just for a footnote, should get approved now, as opposed to a year from now when this is adopted?
I mean, you're looking at, you'd have to
text
initiate the
amendment.
text amendment to be able to do that.
Okay, just something for staff to think about. Glass, under S, glass tubes filled with neon. It's always been my impression that neon signs inside of a window are allowed, but outside of a window are not allowed.
Talking about open signs, right?
Yeah. And that neon framing of a window, even on the inside, is not allowed.
I think we've already discussed this, but we can discuss it again. This says that you can't have that when it exceeds 3 square feet in size.
Okay, so framing of a window would,
If it, yeah, I mean, so an open sign, if it's less than 3 feet, it's no problem.
Okay.
But
and V, do you want to have at the owner's expense when the UDO administrator after 60 days removes something? You want to be able to bill them? Is that just
Repeat the question one more time.
V,
V? Any sign or flag deems to be worn, dilapidated, may be removed by the UDO administrator. You want that to be at the owner's expense?
I mean, there's something in the fee schedule
yeah,
for that, for giving the sign back.
we
Okay.
don't.
All right.
It doesn't
giving
need
the
to be
flag
there.
back.
Yeah.
Under general standards and
well,
illumination.
wait a minute, I have a question on E.
Go.
Not a
It
question.
does say at the owner's expense there
Yeah.
at E.
On E, I'm a little, I'm sure it's gonna be told, I just don't understand, that the days, in the definition, we say a permitted sign which has been erected on a property in conjunction with a particular use for which has been discontinued for a period of 30 days. But then on this section, we say a non-conforming sign or sign serving a vacant building or site that has not been used for 180 days. That seems to be in conflict to me.
Well, this allows it to be removed versus just stating that it's non-conforming. Right? And you're looking at which definition specifically?
It says on page 718, it's sign, comma, abandoned.
It allows, it
So
creates
it
a
says
30-day
there,
period.
after 30 days, it's an abandoned sign. And I guess the way I read this section, it's not an abandoned sign until 180 days. Am I?
Which page?
So
Okay.
you'll be
Oh,
718.
okay,
Going-
718.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just need to fix that.
Relating
Yeah,
a
okay,
definition
got
to
it.
the text.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think maybe 180 needs to be the appropriate one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we take, on the definition, signs abandoned, we
Yeah.
take
Well,
180.
and then, well, hold on.
Is that a,
Hold on. And then after that, they get 60 days to remove it. So in my mind, I was okay with the 180, but not when you tap 60 days on top of it. So it's actually it's actually
Oh.
240 because they don't got to remove it for 60 days. So if we're thinking if a sign is abandoned and we want it gone by 6 months, should that be 120 days? And then they got 60 days to remove it?
Well, this just says that the owner needs to remove it.
Right.
And then if it's still not removed, then it allows the UDO administrator to remove it within a period of 60 days following.
Right, but that occurs 240 days after abandonment. Doesn't it?
I like the 180 because you get into that 6 month. I know we're getting ready to move into non-conforming. We need
Right.
to-
Okay. So then the definition, we're saying the sign is abandoned after 180 days, and then after that they got 60 days to remove it.
That's correct.
Then we just need to change the definition to match.
Yes.
But it just seemed that so you're okay with that? That
Yes.
if a,
it
a
is
sign
a
is
long, it's a long period of
it's a
time.
long period. I thought it was a little long. And
All right, we've agreed on that.
Yeah.
Going to F, general standards and illumination. It says no floodlights. I'd like to also add or colored lights shall be utilized as part of a sign illumination system, which are not hooded or.
Number one.
I don't know that
Definitely.
that colored lights have been an issue with us, but if we're
Wasn't that a floodlight?
Well, does floodlights include the new LED lights?
Floodlight would include.
To me,
LED.
Yeah,
I
the
guess
floodlight is the design of the light.
it's
so,
just a
I guess
projection
colored
light.
is already taken care of here
Yeah.
because a colored would be the floodlight. Okay.
To me, I guess to me, a floodlight, a light is projecting the light onto a
Yes,
surface,
it,
right?
It floods the sign with
Right.
light.
So whether it's white light or color light, I think is not relevant.
Never mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a difference between incandescent floodlights and then what are these new LED lights?
But they're both floodlights.
But they're both floodlights.
I'm not sure that's how they're marketed, but I mean,
Floodlight is a type of illumination system.
okay. All right. I mean, if
All
we're
right.
happy with that,
If we
that's
go to
fine.
residential zoning district sign regulations, and this is the old text, but we talk about MR1, MR2, da 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 da, but we don't have MR2A in there. I just wonder if we're calling it a residential zoning district, why do we need to name them?
Yeah, we don't because
Because we're missing some then.
We've defined, and MR2A is just mistakenly left out. But we do define residential zoning districts now in the ordinance, so that can be
Okay,
stricken.
so we take out having to individually name them.
Yep.
So we're just stopping and permitted in, should we permitted?
If we move on to, okay, we're in residential zoning district, which is G. If we go on to 1, D is in David, non-residential use in residential zoning district. The word exceed needs to be right before 64 square feet. It's just a typo.
G what?
The word exceed needs to be right on D1. One monument sign may be permitted,
It says does not.
does not exceed
that's correct.
64 square feet.
Typo there, yeah. Just a typo.
Yep.
I think everything else here is what we had talked about because I think the planning board is aware that we
Added that
changed the length of the sign, or town council changed the length of the sign. And I thought that was a reasonable change that they
The
made.
monument signs?
Yes, because they
Yeah,
weren't
and
changing the height. which
I'm
was, I mean,
pleased that the sanctuary seems to have erected a sign in compliance with that, and I think it's a very appropriately sized sign. I like the way it looks.
under non-residential zoning district H, do we again need to,
That can be stricken. The
because
the listing.
we've already defined what non-residential is.
We could strike it H in total?
No,
No.
no.
Oh, the
No,
district.
just the MB1, MB2.
The parentheses
BB1.
part.
Yes,
Yep.
where it identifies each type of non-residential
I got
district.
you. I got you.
I've always had an issue with the 16-foot height. I don't know why I didn't speak out more when we were dealing with it before, and this has to do with non-residential H. B2. Maximum height allowed is 16 foot, and the maximum allowed total signage is 64 feet.
Thought we talked about that, didn't we?
That's a big sign.
I think that if I can reflect back at the request of the applicant for the text amendment that we approved,
Mhm.
it was requested that it be that tall.
That's right.
Mhm.
And this is a new language. I don't remember what it was prior. It might have been 8 feet or 10
Yeah.
feet.
I think it was 8 feet, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so there was a reason, and the town council has dealt with that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
never
why it's
mind.
there. Yeah, the 16 feet tall and the total square footage, because that was not in there. I mean, if you remember correctly,
That was added as a little subset thing on
If
the
you
bottom of
remember
it.
correctly, we did not have any allowances for those type of signs in residential districts, so we changed it to match it in the non-residential districts as well.
Any case, we're discussing a topic that's already been
Yes,
finalized.
Yeah.
and I'm moving forward on it. All right, I'm at 3.32, which is nonconformities.
But it states now 3.42. We'll just
Yeah.
clean it up in the.
Yeah,
in the- in
that's
the
a
draft.
minor.
Okay.
Yep.
Wes, did we really change anything in here? I know you have
Just the
one
underline.
paragraph with some underlining on it.
I-
I'd like to hear Wes out on this one because this is it can be a complex topic. I don't think we need to make it one, but maybe hear Wes out on that.
I mean, no, there's not any substantial changes in here other than those that we have formally discussed. And this is a section that's been discussed a good deal over the years. So there wasn't.
I always have under E, which is the last section here, non-conforming lots. When we start listing things like height, open space, buffers, if we forget something, I think it sets a trap for us. But I didn't know that we could regulate floor area. And this is on page 3.112, 3-112.
That last sentence.
So why don't we just say, provided that the use meets all other requirements of the ordinance, period?
Yes. Hey, you see that? So we're going to just remove from, okay, I think it's clear as to what we're going to remove. All right, then we get into the definition pages.
Yeah, the only thing I had was signed abandonment, make that 180 and add signed political, right?
Yep.
Under sign
I
changeable
don't have
copy,
my sign.
it got me thinking, do we allow message boards? I don't think we do.
I don't think you allow electronic message centers, but I'd have to go back and look.
Well, and that's kind of what I meant. I
But
guess
a changeable copy is, where
Those little
Burger
letters.
King says that you've
Like a
got,
theater marquee.
yeah,
or a marquee or whatever.
You
that
put the
you-
letters up there.
That's
yeah,
right.
like you used to do at the gas station.
Yes. So you still, I guess they're not
They're
really doing
electrical
those
now.
anymore. They're electric. Yeah.
Because they change every 5 minutes.
Yep.
But we do not allow message signs that cycle.
That's right.
That's correct.
So I would assume that I would take that as changeable copy,
Okay.
even though they're electric.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
and I would not categorize the gas station Circle K going from an easy pay or like if it flashes
It
from.
changes, yeah.
Yeah, I would not put that in there in that category. You would have to like some kind of sign saying
But somebody could.
open special or $5.99 steak and egg
But somebody
dinner.
could.
I,
I mean, I agree with you, but I think the way this
They'd be subject to, I think, a violation then.
Yes.
Let me see. Do we have that? Is electronic message center defined?
we probably need to define it.
All right, we probably need to add a definition of electronic message center.
okay.
That will help, but I don't think I have any allowances for it either.
Yeah, so is that one of the prohibited signs then?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, so
But
just
defining it
add
will
the
help.
appropriate definition to
Yes.
match that.
Yes.
Electronic message center,
Yes, sir.
sign,
Yes.
comma, message center, comma,
Yes.
electronic,
Yeah, whatever you want to say.
whatever, however you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
and as long as it matches the prohibited type. Got that, Katie?
Under sign monument, we have a definition here which talks about 2/3 the height of the horizontal length of the sign. Didn't we put in on monument signs the maximum length, the maximum height, and an overall square footage? Did we retain that 2/3?
No.
No, I thought it was 8 by 16.
No.
Probably the last part of that just needs to be stricken.
About
Okay.
Yeah.
Freestanding sign with a base affixed to the ground.
And then stop there, right?
Right.
Because
Okay,
definitions are,
because we've got dimensional
the dimensional
tolerances
things are in the
that
text.
are in the text, yes. I'm done with all the assignments we've
Say-
done so far. Anybody have any?
A larger horizontal length.
You wanted to table the discussion about how we transfer the work we're doing to the town council in a way that
No,
perhaps is more elegant than just dumping the whole thing on them at once.
So I will work, I need to start working with Wes on that, so I will start doing that. I've told the council I was gonna start doing that at the
You
beginning of
announced
the
that
year.
at a town council meeting from the
I
from the
did at
podium.
the beginning of the year, and I need to start doing that. So my goal is not to dump it all on them at once.
Okay.
So just, trust Wes and I that we're gonna have that conversation and start working our way into that.
When you say dump it on them, you're also talking about dumping it on us.
Us, yes. Yes.
Like
So,
you give us and them, although we have to have a chance to look at it
Well,
before it
what I
goes to town
mean,
council.
Yeah, you guys are going to get a full, revised, clean copy. And
Yeah, but we were talking about not waiting until the end before that copy was generated.
we already had this discussion. The problem is then you guys are reviewing new material. Then you're talking about a revised set of copy, and it is not a good solution. We need to get all the way through it. Then you're going to get a full new thing. And if we can only take a section of it, that's fine. But I have gone through this before, because then we're going to be in a meeting and you guys are going to be talking about revisions to Article 2. Meanwhile, we're talking about new material that was given to you, and it does not.
And we're still hoping to get that entire document then in July.
That's correct, if not
Okay.
sooner.
and when I mean dumping it on the council, I mean providing them with what we have already.
isn't that the same thing as handing them off to a portion of it without finishing it? I'm confused.
That we're rehashing a conversation we formerly had multiple times, but we're going to have it
in
again.
fairness to
Yeah.
us and to
Yeah.
Chad,
Yeah.
we've had this conversation without you in the room,
Oh,
and
okay.
we weren't clear on that.
Oh, okay.
So,
Remember, we talked about we need you all to. This is your document. Once it's done, once you've had your say with it, then it goes to the council and it's under their purview. Now, if the council needs to be updated, if they need to be provided a bulleted list of the big picture
but
priorities,
they could watch us here.
or they could watch us here. Katie could provide them the minutes. I mean, there's a host of, yeah, but this is your document until you recommend it out of this venue.
To go
Then-
to council.
Then it becomes their responsibility.
So the way I read the schedule, we're going to have 2 meetings to review the whole book. July and August.
Yes, and technically you've been reviewing the book.
That's right.
So
if
we
it
had,
takes
so
if
for-
it takes more time, it takes more time. But that's
because the joint session with the planning board is September.
and that's
So-
an optional item. So if it
Oh,
Thanks, Chad.
Well, it really isn't an optional item because of the election process.
got it. Well,
Uh,
yeah.
It's,
okay.
found
I mean, I
that
guess
copy.
we're
I
comfortable
put
with
it in
2
the wrong
meetings to do
place. I
the
apologize.
final review of the book.
I don't know.
6 hours.
I'm hoping that the book that we get will then agree with all of my margin notes and what I've been putting in my brain.
Yeah. And we
I've
may
got it.
have 1 or 2 things that we want to revisit upon further consideration. and
I'm
input
sure that we
from-
will.
And we can possibly have 2 meetings in that month if we had to, but
Yeah.
I don't.
And remember, our contract was laid out so that we're having 1 meeting a month. So the fact that we're doubling these up, just so you know,
Well,
that-
a lot of months we didn't, but yes, we are now.
Okay. Thank you, Wes.
Well, we're just trying to get to the schedule, I guess. We're just trying to make sure we're going to hit the milestones.
I'm just suggesting that there's a time and cost associated with more meeting time.
This takes us through Article 4,
Yeah,
subdivisions.
That's correct.
yes.
And remember, you're going to have Article 5 and 6 that there should be conceivably almost zero changes. Article 5 is completely flood damage. We're not,
And wireless
And
telecommunications is 6.
and wireless is going to be, we've already talked about wireless essentially mirroring what you already have. And then definitions,
Okay.
the vast majority of definitions, you've already been given the new material.
I understand.
So,
You have to go.
Yes.
But we would like to have the discussion on when our next meeting is, which was under new business. The only thing under new business, which would be next. Is everybody comfortable with the fact that we've closed
Yep.
the UDO
Yes.
review
Yep.
for today at least?
That's done.
And we're now at new business, which is discussion of the next meeting. And I think there was some conflicts for the 16th of March.
yes, and
Not on my part, but
we're on to the meeting on the 21st, I believe.
That's correct.
Tuesday, the 21st at
That's
9
correct.
a.m.
That's correct.
Of March?
21st of March?
Yes,
So the 16th is being changed
That's
to
a
21st?
Tuesday.
that's
Yes,
correct.
ma'am.
Just want to make sure I got it right.
Yes.
Changed to
Guess what?
321?
I have a
Yes.
conflict.
So we just need a motion, if that's.
all right, I'd like to entertain a motion that our next UDO update meeting will be in these chambers on Tuesday, the 21st of March at 9 a.m.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I'm fine.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, so be it.
Okay, you got that.
Changing it now.
The next item is public comments, and we're seeing that we don't have any. Before I look at adjourning, Richard, was your topic regarding getting a partial packet from Wes, which would incorporate the 2 passes that we've made already through it, has that been answered? In other words, the answer is no.
Well, again, and I'll be brief. My only concern is when I've talked to members of the board, they're just like, "You're going to dump this thing on us in one? We're going to have to look at this as one." I mean, it's going to be a document that thick.
They've had the opportunity to watch us, and
And I'll say
Yeah,
this.
I don't
I've
think
some have.
some have. Well, that's good to know.
I'll reiterate the fact that I've had those similar conversations with council, not just in a town council meeting, but also separate. I fully intend to make them as comfortable as possible moving forward into this.
So
So
that's
just
good to
know
hear.
that-
With those assurances, I think
Yes.
I'm fine. And
It's a heavy lift, but I mean, we can't give them something that has not been recommended. Is
I've
the
sat on
problem?
town council when we redid the land use plan.
Yeah.
And if I just had a portion of it to look at, it would have been a disaster. I had to be able to go through it and then reference further downstream to answer my own question. I agree that
Okay.
unless it's a packet, you don't know where it starts and ends. It's,
all right, I'm fine. All right.
I'd like to
Thank you.
entertain a motion to,
One more
yes.
thing. I need to prepare y'all for something. Between the months of April and May, there will be potentially a special called third planning board meeting on one of those months. I have an official application for conditional zoning MDP. So just keep that in mind. I'll have more details as it comes, but keep that in mind that you might be looking at a third meeting depending on how it lays out within those span of two months.
We have the benefit of advance notice and advance complete packet before our meeting, and I don't mean like 48 hours, but some time so we can digest it and then ask you questions.
I will have it to you as quick as possible, but also try to accommodate one-on-one meetings on this as well, like we did with other.
2-on-1 meetings.
Yeah, 2-on-1 or one-on-one meetings to
Just-
discuss it.
Just for disclosure, I'm out of town on vacation May 7th through the 14th.
Okay.
So
Yes, that's fine. I mean, as long as we have a quorum, but I do have regular planning board stuff we need to look at on the first meeting in April.
Okay.
Again,
All right.
one more thing. I think if you look at it, you're down to your new material. I can't commend y'all for the work you've done this this morning. When you look at the schedule, I'd say we're somewhat caught up.
I had
So,
talked to Ron yesterday, and I said that what we did today was going to require 2 meetings. So
yeah,
it's-
like I said, I can't. This is. I'm very pleased with the work we've done this morning and what we've
Can I
got through.
ask
Good.
you a general CZ question that came to my mind last night?
Sure.
Are planning board members allowed to go to the public meetings more than 2 people? Do we need Lisa or somebody to give us a ruling?
I think the answer to that question is yes. You're allowed to.
you just can't be deliberating while you're there.
That is correct, and I'll let Lisa further define that.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty
maybe
sure
some
I was right on-
clarification before the first one occurs, so
Yeah,
we don't inadvertently violate a rule
that's correct.
because we just want to hear the
Yeah.
presentation and everything.
But I think we need to be careful as to our participation level.
It's more of your deliberation between yourselves.
Mm.
So,
All right, I'd like to entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.